Okay. Is it live? I think it's live. Yeah, okay, see, I can't wait. Okay, Susan, hello, and Chunky Cheese. So is it actually live? Yay, cool. All right. Hello, Reclaimer Rob. Hey, Space Cowboy, how you doing? Oops, I just kicked everything here. Okay, so the midnight show. I don't know whether this will be a mistake or not, but I'm having a little bit of green tea, so maybe get a little bit of caffeine, but it may also mean, frequent bathroom breaks. Who knows? We'll see. Reclaimer Rob, yes, I am trying to be live. So, what questions have you for me today, or this evening, or tonight, or I guess it's this morning, right? If you want to be all pedantic about it. So back from Minnesota, from Vegas. Oh, how is that venue? I hear that it's really quite a thing. I'm curious. I mean, I don't really go to Vegas, but um, that seems like a pretty interesting thing. Armin27, hello, how are you? So, Reclaimer Rob, when you were in Vegas, did you just go for the show, or did you do, some losing of money to the horrible monster that is the gambling institutions of, whatever? I used to do a little bit of gambling up in Reno and Tahoe a little while back. Well, many years back, but back when I, had disposable income of that sort. At least I felt I had that kind of disposable income, but. Man, nice. Cool. I'd like, stuff like that. That kind of, I don't know, modern things appeal to me in that regard. Nice. Okay. Well, that's good. Just don't do the horrible vice thing about blowing your money just because it's exciting to risk it. You know what I mean? That's just it's not a wise thing to gamble money. It can be exciting, but it's not wise. But that's why it's called gambling, right? It's a funny thing. I've known a lot of people, or made all kinds of claims about how much they win, and it's just like, of all the people that I've met who claim to be they always came back and winning, it's like, yeah, then how is it that these places make money? I mean, yeah, it's because it's BS, man. Just about everybody loses. All right, so let's see. We have some. Okay, so it could be getting more expensive. Yeah, that would suck if it got too big or too expensive and all that. Okay, so Susan says, do I believe in the police should be defunded? Okay, I guess the short answer would be yes, but that has to come with some qualifiers, because police have been given too many things to do that fall outside of the purview of a constabulary. I think, money could be spent. Well, it depends on how the money's spent and what it's being done to do. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's really what it comes down to. Yeah, you only hear about the wins, right? Nobody wants to brag about the money they lose. Anyway, Susan, I hope that kind of answers the question. It doesn't really answer the question at all, does it? It's, the constabulary forces are necessary for as long as you're going to have people doing silly things and cruel things and, criminalistic things. You need somebody to kind of step in and, deal with it. Even if it's just, somebody banging on the door to say, hey, everybody's saying that you're beating your wife, this kind of thing. However, when you get into situations where somebody's beating their wife, maybe showing up with a show of force might not be the answer. You know, so. Anyway, I'd like to keep tonight more lighthearted than that, Susan, if you don't mind, just because, it's midnight. I already did one stream earlier, and I'd rather be happy and cheerful than, serious and all that kind of thing. I guess if people only have serious questions, I'll be, happy to entertain them, but, I don't know. Susan says, the police are thugs in my area of Toronto. Well, if the police are thugs, then something has to be done about that, right? That's, I don't know much about Toronto, to be honest, in that regard, but I do know, well, here in the States we have, I'm not going to get into specific cities just because I don't want to get into, some kind of, I don't know, drama thing about whatever, but yeah, there are certainly places where police departments need to be, it's not a few bad apples ruining the barrel, it's a huge barrel of bad apples in a lot of cases, and it just needs to get taken care of, right? Anyway. What are some of my favorite films, says Trav L. Okay, that's a more cheerful topic. Well, so let's just do, there's some ones that, let's see. Okay, so my two kind of favorites when people ask me my favorite films are 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and also The House of Flying Daggers. Those three kind of tend to be, yeah, there's probably more I should add onto that, but what are a lot of movies I like? I like a lot of Hitchcock, especially Rear Window, To Catch a Thief, Vertigo. Yeah, those are really good. What else do I like? Oh, I also like, I mentioned 2001, and as far as Kubrick goes, I like Dr. Strangelove, or what is it, or How I Learned to Stop Caring and Love the Bomb, or something like that. And also A Clockwork Orange, I think, is a really, really good movie. And I like, there's a whole bunch of those Hong Kong, I think they're Hong Kong, they're Chinese anyway, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that kind of follow a similar aesthetic to House of Flying Daggers. Hero is another one. Yeah, I like that kind of, I like that stuff a lot too. Yeah, I'm sure more will come to mind as the evening goes on, so I might just interrupt anything at a drop of a hat here and just go, oh yeah, I like this movie too. Yeah, okay, so what is it? Do I like going to the movie theater for films, or do I watch anything recent? I haven't really been watching many movies at all recently. I'm not sure I have a good reason for why that is. I don't go to theaters lately just because it's difficult for me to get comfortable and sit patiently with my spine. So until I get my back healthier, it's going to be something that's just going to have to be on hold for a while. It's like I don't go to restaurants anymore either for the same reason. Yeah, so, it's all about, I shouldn't be slouching and all that kind of thing either. So, I got to get my back healthier, and then I'm sure I can walk. Yeah, there you go. Fantastic. Okay, so Space Cowboy says, could you do some ASMR while talking during the stream if possible? Yeah, I suppose I could. Earlier people had me here. Let's see if I can manage this. I was doing some doing the mic thing here. I don't know if that's working for everybody. Some people in the last stream seemed to like that. And I suppose I could also do some whispering and the like when I'm responding to questions. I haven't seen Full Metal Jacket, which is a crime, isn't it? Because Kubrick is such a really good director, and that movie has such a great reputation. I should go see it. It's just, yeah. But I have not seen it yet. But, speaking of war movies, I do really like Apocalypse Now as well. Man, I think Brando's performance in that is really just startlingly good. He's one of those actors, though, right? You know, when he's on the money, he does amazing stuff. But anyway, okay, CJ rural in Scotland. Is that re-roll, or is that how you would say that? If I missed a comment, it seems like, yeah, okay, I think I'm pretty much caught up. You know, it's a weird thing for, you know, when I was younger, I used to stay up late like all the time. And lately I'm like, you know, one of those guys. It's like, a lot of times I'm in bed by 10, you know what I mean? I guess when you give up the, you know, the booze and the partying and all of that stuff, that, you know, things become calmer and more sedate, I guess. So what's more ASMR-ish sorts of things, yeah. HK, well, the story is we're doing a live stream, man. Live stream for, I guess it's Sunday morning, isn't it? In the wee hours, at least here in California. Yeah, I'm doing another one at 9 Sunday morning, or I guess later this morning. That's my plan is, just because so many different people had different time zones that they preferred to be able to watch it in, so I decided I would just do one weekend a month. I would just do, I'll try to do 3 streams, probably more or less the kind of time frame I'm doing now. That might, you know, evolve a little bit depending on, you know, people's preferences or popularity and that kind of thing. Yeah, so at the weekend closest to the middle of the month, this is going to be, you know, Bill's live stream weekend extravaganza. Casino Royale with Peter Sellers. No, I have not. You know, I should. That's another movie that is. Yeah, I should see. I like Peter Sellers a lot too. I mean, obviously in Doctor Strangelove he's fantastic, but also that movie is much later in his career. Being There, I really like that one as well. Ever listened to the ambient album Plantasia? You know, that name seems really familiar, but I can't bring anything specific to mind. So it's either something I'm aware of and haven't listened to, or it's something I've listened to and just can't remember anything specific about it. Yeah, thanks, Rob. I'm glad you liked the last stream last month. Yeah, it's kind of, you know, it's a little ambitious for me, you know what I mean? But I think it's worth it. You know, I get to, the thing is, it lets me interact with the biggest number of people, right? So it's just a matter of me, you know, it costs me time, right? That's all, right? So, you know, I think it's worth spending the time. Yeah, you know. So there you go. What did I have for dinner? You know, I wasn't terribly hungry, but I knew I would need calories in my system to, you know, be able to, you know, just function. So I had I ate peanut butter. I eat peanut butter by the spoonful sometimes, and I have some chocolate milk. So that was dinner tonight. Usually I have, well, usually I eat kind of a dull sort of health food guy kind of diet. So for dinner is usually, I make a salad that's a mixture of coleslaw and greens, like spring mix is the thing I buy at Safeway, and prefab coleslaw just because it comes in small enough bags that I can eat it all before it starts going bad, kind of a thing. So I mix coleslaw on the bottom with the greens on the top, and then either canned chicken or sardines. You know, those two things either go onto the salad, and then I'll have some bread with that, or if I don't have those, I'll make an albacore sandwich. And so I usually have salad and then either chicken or fish or something like that. almost every night, that sort of thing is what I eat. It's pretty dull, I suppose, but it's healthy and I enjoy it. So there you go. Yeah, chicken breast is good. I tend to just buy the canned chicken though, just because it's it's easy and convenient, and yeah. Do I watch any sports? Not really. Um, I guess I do sometimes, but I don't really watch stuff like baseball or football all that much, um, and neither American football or soccer to the for us and the rest of the world football. I will occasionally kind of watch those things, but when I watch those, it's usually because it's a social situation. However, I am fascinated by human athleticism, so I'll watch, like sometimes I'll watch track and field stuff. Sometimes I'll watch gymnastics stuff. Um, Lately, I've been kind of fascinated by this guy. I think his name is Killian Braun. I think he's a French guy. He does mountain bike racing. And I started watching a couple of his videos just because he does the GoPro point of view type stuff. And man, he's going down these trails at this breakneck speed. It's just fascinating for me to watch. Just crazy, crazy, crazy. But so I'll watch stuff like that until I kind of go, I've got my fill of watching it, and then I'll try to watch something else. Or I don't try, I get fascinated by things. Mostly it's just because I get fascinated by, like I said, human athleticism. We can do some pretty amazing things, and when certain individuals, obtain and hone a skill set to really become breathtaking, it's, I don't know, I think it's worthy of note. No, I never went to any San Jose Shark games. I never really got caught up in the whole hockey thing that much. Although for a little while, when there was a thing called the ABL, which was a women's basketball league, they had, I think they were called the Lasers, the San Jose Lasers. And I used to go down and watch them live in person, so not really on TV. I don't even know if the ABL ever got shown on TV, to be honest. This is pre-WNBA. And Jennifer Azzi was our point guard. Man, she was really, really good. Anyway, so yeah, it has nothing to do with the hockey, but San Jose anyway. But you're up in Toronto, is that what you said, Susan? So I guess the stereotypical thing is up in Canada, you guys like hockey, right? So do you like hockey? I guess would be the question I would ask. Okay, Poggers, the handsome man. If you're interested in athleticism and stuff, you should watch NBA games. Yeah, you're right. The NBA does have a lot of tremendous athletes in it. The thing about it for me is that the pace of it I find distracts me at times. That's why I like, track and field, you can kind of focus on a skill and watch them do it well, right? As opposed to being kind of all over the place and, and that's probably just me and my ability to pay attention more than, anything else. Reclaimer Rob, never been a big sports watcher either, but love watching wrestling for some. Yeah, that's the thing about the wrestling thing, is it's as much a show as it is an athletic thing, isn't it? Yeah, everyone likes hockey up there, yep. One thing I have done that I really did enjoy, it's kind of an odd thing, like I don't care for baseball to watch on television. I find it really dull. But I used to go occasionally with a friend of mine who was quite an A's fan, and I would go with him occasionally to watch the game in person, and it's different in person. And now, having said that, I have seen Raiders games in person, and I think NFL is better to watch on TV than in person. At least, that's my. I feel like I could see what's happening on the field better. Maybe I would like watching basketball in person better than on TV. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not anti-sport. Some things just don't grab my attention is all. So it's really more to do with me and my psychology than anything else, I think. And what do I think about wrestling? You mean like Greco-Roman wrestling or jiu-jitsu type wrestling, that kind of thing? I find that fascinating, and every once in a while I'll watch that sort of thing just because for the similar thing. You know, it really is like a flukish thing. It's like what kind of just grabs my attention at the time, and you know, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just like, oh, that seems interesting, and so I'll watch it. You know, that's really what it comes down to. I'm kind of finicky, I guess, in that way. Oh, right, on the wrestling thing, one take. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I imagine they do a tremendous amount of rehearsal to be able to pull that kind of stuff off. But yeah, I never really got into it that much. But yeah, I will obviously, you know, yeah, you're right that, you know, it's a tremendous thing that's going on there. Maybe tremendous isn't really quite the right adjective, but it's impressive as hell. I'll say that. You know, it's just, again, it's just, you know, I mean, most things that are professional athletic stuff, the people are doing some impressive things, right? It's just a matter of, you know, what, you know, it's like in music, there's tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff that's really amazing musically, but some stuff grabs my attention more than others, and I'll get, you know, fascinated and into it. And it's, you know, I can't always explain why that's the case. It's just, you know. Okay, so Space Cowboy says one thing he doesn't like is conditioning. Yeah, but you gotta have to do that, don't you? I mean, you're not going to be able to compete effectively if you don't, you know, kind of stay in top condition, right? Okay, Susan's talking. You have to get into the game within the game. Or you have to gamble. Yeah, you know, I mean, I guess that's part of the thing with a lot of with professional sports, isn't it? I mean, you know, whether it's, you know, regular football to the rest of the world, or soccer here, or our football, or yeah, I mean, all of it, right? That the people get into the team thing, right? That's another thing. I never really got quite into the team thing very much. Like when I was a kid, I was a Raiders fan, but that's because I lived in Hayward, which is right next to Oakland. Um, but I never really got caught up into that I was part of it, you know, as far as the drama of it. But that seems to drive a lot of it, isn't it? I mean, people kind of come to identify with the team, and that, like, when you hear people, you know, around the water cooler on Monday morning after NFL Sunday, right? People will talk about like us, we, you know what I mean? Like they somehow had something in it, in the game, rather than just being a spectator. And that's clearly an emotional thing, obviously, because they weren't really there. But you know, I think it all wraps up together, because I think the athletes understand the fandom, and then that probably feeds their enthusiasm and ability to do their, you know, whatever it is that they're doing. Anyway. Well, it's good to see that it's getting easier for you, Space Cowboy. You know, I mean, is it something you're going to pursue off into college and this sort of thing, or, you know, even further possibly? I mean, you know, I don't know. What does one do with wrestling? I mean, it's not as a big ticket sort of sport as, say, something like basketball, right? But I don't know. Join the Olympic team, man. I mean, if you've been wrestling that long, right? Yeah, you probably got some pretty impressive skills, I imagine. Okay, Susan asked, what did I think about the Occupy movement? You know, I have mixed feelings about it. I understand the idea of it, and actually I'm kind of on the side of it to a degree, because I'm, you know, I am a left-wing anarchist, and I believe capitalism should be dismantled. However, I can't speak so much for how it played out in New York, because that's New York, but it also existed to a certain extent here on the West Coast, to a certain degree in San Francisco. I mean, I just don't think it was very effectively organized. It seemed like it was a little haphazard, and I don't think it leveraged public awareness very effectively. So, you know, it kind of fizzled out, really. You know, at least that's, you know, my perception of it. So, Space Cowboy, no college wrestling, huh? All right, well, that's fine. Do it while you're having fun, man. If you stop enjoying it, then stop doing it, right? And Matteo, ciao from Italy. Well, hello to you from California. Well, I'm glad you listen to the videos with such frequency, Matteo. That's fantastic. And I'm glad that you like them. And, that's why I make them, right? For you guys to enjoy them. So I'm glad that it works, man. That's fantastic. Absolutely. Agape is for us to come to an understanding and be compassionate towards each other. Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay for you to have different political views from me. I'm not interested in dictating policy to people. That's just not my makeup. Which is, I guess, why I have the political views I have. Is I'm just sort of whatever. But anyway, I don't really want to spend that much time on politics. Just because, yeah. I don't know, maybe I should do a live stream on the W.C. Postman channel that will be more about that kind of stuff, But yeah, I'd like to keep this channel more kind of just, chill, yeah. Because the problem is that when I start talking about politics and economics, I tend to get pretty riled up. And I don't want to expend my energy in that way on this channel, you know what I mean? I don't think me being riled up is terribly conducive for the ASMR experience. Oh, speaking of which, let's see if I can do some more. So what is earlier in the previous stream, people liked me doing the fingers on the mic screen. Is that still working for people here now, or should I abandon it and think of something else? Anyway, there was a little bit of scratching on the thing. I was thinking of trying to find some other things to... Because these mics are well, I guess you can't really see them. They're not in the camera, and I'm not going to fiddle with the camera positioning now, but they have like a metal screen that goes around the capsule. Kind of metal mesh kind of stuff. Anyway, so I was thinking maybe finding some, I don't know, like some kind of brush thing. Oh, you know what? Hang on. This is readily accessible, I believe. Pardon me a brief moment, I think. Here we go. I have a paintbrush. Not that I really do all that much painting, and I only have one, but I use it just for odd crafty things where I need to... Usually I've used it to paint glue on things, but let's see how this will work. How's that? Is that... Okay, Space Cowboy asks if I fish or hunt. No, not really. I, have fished in the past because, I went with friends kind of a thing, especially when I was a kid. I went a couple times out with a friend of... I had some really good... My sister and I had some friends. It was like they were the same age, right? So me and this other guy, and then he had a little brother that was the same age as my sister, right? So the four of us used to hang out quite a bit when we were kids. And... their dad liked to fish, so we went fishing with him a couple of times. There's a park near where I used to live in South Hayward, and they used to stock... They had this little kind of man-made lake in the middle of the park, and they used to stock it with crayfish. And so we used to go get the crawdads, get some bacon on some hooks and fish the crawdads out. I used to do that a little bit as a kid. And otherwise, no, I haven't really ever been hunting. I have nothing against it. I actually like backpacking and stuff, which I haven't done in years. But I never got into the whole hunting thing really. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm not still streaming Undertaker. I stopped and started again, and I'm gonna do it. I don't know. I'll probably do this for a couple of hours, and then I'll stop, and then I'm gonna be starting again at 9 in the morning. Oops. Excuse me. It's the whole try to do a lot of streaming over a weekend, one weekend a month to, just be available and try to reach as many of you guys as I can, yeah? Anyway, what was the verdict on the paintbrush? Should I throw that in periodically here, or should I just abandon that notion altogether? Okay, and it asked if I would rather fight 1,000 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking the one horse-sized duck would be the better thing, although it would be a really difficult foe. But I just think 1,000 of anything, if they have any amount of intelligence, could really screw you up just because of numbers. You know what I mean? Like there was a thing, people used to do that thing about, would you pick which and what kind of thing to be on your team? So if you could have, like, say, rats, for example, if you could have a bunch of rats, and if they actually would do your bidding, so that they could function in an intelligent and strategic manner, a bunch of rats could do a tremendous amount of damage, you know what I'm saying? And Mr. Spooky, how am I not tired? Well, I took a nap. And Susan's right. Yeah, green tea. So, my favorite song at the moment. That got asked in the last one, but they were specifically asking about funk. But it's Annie Don't Wear No Panties by Erykah Badu. Man, I just love the groove of that. And plus just the humor. And she's a fantastic singer. She's absolutely a fantastic singer. Wow, Mateo, that is super generous. Yippee-yi-yay, man, that's crazy, crazy. Well, I imagine that, I don't know whether I should say or not, but a certain amount of that will probably go towards cannabis. I hope that doesn't offend you, but, that's one of my weaknesses at this point in life. It's, a small amount of caffeine and the occasional little bit of cannabis. Okay, but Annie Don't Wear No Panties is my current kind of the song of fascination at the moment. And Space Cowboy asks, what is my favorite food and have I ever shot a gun? Yes, I've shot guns. I've shot several guns. I've never owned guns myself. I learned to fire a gun because of my grandfather. It was a bolt-action .22 is what I learned to shoot on. And I had a friend who was quite a gun enthusiast, and he had quite a collection of guns. Some shotguns, some assault rifle type things that were, I don't know if I should say anything more than that. We used to take those out to BLM land in Nevada and shoot beer cans off of rocks, Of course, we've emptied those beer cans before we shot them, but yeah. And Susan agrees with the horse-sized duck, and there's Mateo saying, man, I really appreciate that. It's absolutely fantastic generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyway, Thomas Hendy, loved the brush sound. Okay, I will throw that in now and again. And Susan appreciates humor and art too. Yeah, of course, Humor and art can be a good thing. What is my favorite math theory? Asks Care Bear. I don't know how to answer that, frankly, because, when I was at school and studying math, my focus was on axiomatic systems, And so I guess there's the thing, axioms, and the fact that math stems from them. Like all of math is essentially a gigantic if-then statement. If you can accept the axioms, then you get a whole host of stuff out of that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And of course there's the whole completeness and all that kind of stuff, right? You either can be complete or it can be consistent, or pick one, but you don't get both. Anyway, Susan asked if did I ever play DOS games? Yeah, I did back in the day. I used to use computers way before there was such a thing as Windows. The one I liked is actually is where the game I like to watch, or a game I play on some of my gameplay videos, the Sokoban thing. There's a version of that from the first time I came across it, I think, was probably the early 90s, I think. But it was a DOS game. And yeah, it was, I can't think of any others that come to mind right now, but I think some of the, I think the company was named Sierra. I think they're the ones that did the King's Quests and all the other things, and like Leisure Suit Larry. And I think those all started off as DOS games. I might be wrong on that. I wish my dad was back on. He would remember that better than I. Okay, Space Cowboy says, well, it's rather late here on the east, so I'm going to go now. Good night, Space Cowboy. I will see you next time I'm doing a stream. I hope to see you again. It was nice to see you this time. And yeah, take care and have a good night's sleep, man. And Sky Roads. I don't know Sky Roads. I wonder if I could. I wonder how hard it would be to find something that would do an emulation so that I could play old DOS games on my Pop! OS system. I'm gonna have to look into that because there's a lot of cool games from back in the day, Yeah. Will I do more math ASMR? Yeah, probably. I've been thinking about that. Somebody asked before in a video, a comment about me doing some geometry stuff. So I've been thinking about that. Maybe just breaking out my text, which the one that I showed in the recent show and tell. Yeah, I might do that. Maybe just break out with some, I'm rusty, as hell as far as, my ability to do things. I mean, I haven't written a proof in years, and nor have I really solved any problems in years either. So I'm, probably about as foolish as one could imagine. But yeah, I think it might be worth, breaking out the book and instead of just being superficially amused by it, to actually, look at it with some rigor. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's probably in the cards. I just don't know when. The problem I have right now is that I have so many things that I would like to do and am planning to do. It's just a matter of me, getting better at using my time and achieving the things that I have in my head. And let's have another little bit of brushing, shall we? And it's a good opportunity to just sort of slow down too, isn't it? Okay, there's a little bit of brushing. Oh, Susan Young also, I missed this one. Apogee. I'm drawing a blank on that. I feel like I should know what that is as far as, I'm assuming that's a game reference, right? Maybe my brain is playing a trick on me because I can't bring anything solidly forward out of my memories. So maybe it's just a tangential word association with something else that's kind of polluting my memory or something. I don't know. Memory is a strange thing, here's a funny tale from my past. I don't think I've told you guys before, but so many years ago, I was a teenager, and we, as a family, we had been living here in the Bay Area because since I was 2 till about, I guess, 15. We lived here in the Bay Area, and then we went to San Diego as a family for a couple of years. And during that time period, we kept the house here. It's actually the one that I'm in now. But my parents rented it out to somebody else. So I guess, let's see, so it would be from between my sophomore year and my junior year, the summer between those 2 years in high school, there was going to be a switchover from tenants. And my mom and dad wanted to have some stuff done, some minor maintenance, some painting and that kind of thing done to the house. And all the stuff they needed done was stuff I knew how to do, just because my dad is a DIY sort of guy, so I kind of grew up with that. And my grandfather was very much a DIY guy, so I kind of knew how to do some basic stuff. So I made a deal with my parents that me and my friends would stay in the house, and we would do the painting and the cleaning and all this stuff to set it up from after one tenant into the next, and our neighbors would sort of be our chaperones to make sure that we stayed out of trouble, kind of thing. And so it was actually pretty cool, except for at one point in time we were kind of screwing off, as young teenage boys will do. And one of the guys was outside, and I don't remember what started it, but we were going to lock him outside for some reason, and he was trying to get back inside. And there was a dining room window that was, the house is kind of on a hill, so you had to kind of jump up if you're on the outside to be able to reach and grab hold of that window, which he did. He was going to try to grab up to the window and then try to pull himself up. Anyway, while he was doing that, I started to crank the window in, because it's one of those where you crank it and the window, goes like this as opposed to going up and down, right? And anyway, so it broke the window. And I didn't want to tell my parents that we broke the window while we were screwing around. So I made up some story about how we were doing cleaning in the dining room, and I was doing some mopping, and I accidentally put the handle of the mop through the window, and that's what broke the window. And so my dad just arranged for the neighbor to go down and buy a new pane of glass, and then I just put in the new pane of glass. It was fine. Anyway, years and years later, I was after I was married, actually, and living down in San Diego, I came up to visit, and me and some of those guys kind of had a bit of a reunion and got back together. It had been 10 years later kind of thing. And I remember talking about how embarrassed I was that we broke the window, and that I, put the mop handle through the window or whatever. And my friends were looked at each other, and are you serious, man? And I'm like, what? And they go, dude, that wasn't what happened at all. And then so they but I had an actual memory of the handle of the mop going through, or I guess it was a broom, I guess is what I said. Anyway, at the time I had a memory in my head, and it was when they were talking to me, it was you see in the movies how the glass breaks and then the reality was revealed kind of thing. It was kind of like that, and it was wow. And it was just it's such human memory, at least my experience of it in that moment was very, very, very strange, so it's a malleable thing, so for a little while I had a dual memory of an event where both memories seemed to be pretty real. And now the one where, you know, what everybody agrees upon happened is the, you know, the thing that I have as a memory now. But it was a very, very weird experience. Yeah, I gaslit myself. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just nuts. So, you know. Yeah, there you go. That's you know, there's the story. I'm never gonna forget that one. You know, the worst thing about it, or the funniest thing about it, or however you want to characterize it, is that my parents it wouldn't have been that big a deal if I'd have just told them the truth. You know what I mean? If I'd have just said, yeah, we were farting off and we screwed up and accidentally broke the window, they'd have said, stop screwing off, go fix the window. You know what I mean? That would, like, they wouldn't have been unreasonable about it, you know? But, well, whatever, you know, so. Okay, James Morrison says, hi, Bill, I've been watching you since Stillness, and there was a time I thought I'd never see you on YouTube again, but you're back and live streaming and all that thing. Well, you know, I'm glad you like the stuff. I'm glad you appreciate the fact that I'm back, and I'm glad that you're here tonight. So there you go, right? It's a win-win-win-win-win all the way around, huh? Anyway, welcome here, man. Glad to see you. You know, what a strange little bit of language, right? We say, see you and all of this, but I'm not actually seeing you. I'm seeing, you know, my own image in a weird delayed fashion because of the, you know, the OBS and the YouTube thing interacting, and watching my little audio meters to make sure I don't do anything silly and cause clipping or whatnot. But, you know, whatever, you know, it's a funny thing. So nice to see you, right? Even though I'm not actually seeing you, it's a funny thing to say. Anyway. Okay. What do I think about Chat GP? You know, the chat thing. I've only actually fiddled with it a couple of times, and to be honest, I found it kind of disappointing. So I don't know, maybe I have to rethink how I, you know, have encountered it, and, you know, go back to it and see, you know. I mean, because I didn't really have anything in mind to do, you know what I mean? I just thought, oh, everybody's making a big deal out of this thing. Maybe I should go check it out. And, I mean, it's interesting. Clearly it understood. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what I asked about it or what I gave to it or whatever. But yeah, it was, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should go back and check it out again. I mean, I have a friend who's a visual artist named Marcelo Radulovic. He's got a YouTube channel called Titicaca Man. He's an interesting guy. He used to be the primary songwriter and the lead singer for a band I was in way back in the day in the 80s. He's a really, really crazy, cool, creative cat, though. But he uses AI stuff to help him with generating, you know, visual stuff. I don't know exactly how the technique works or whatnot, but I just know he gets some pretty interesting results that, you know, I find very fascinating. But yeah, so yeah, my thoughts on Chat GTP are, at least for me, it's somewhat disappointing. But again, I'll go back and, you know, check it out some more at a future time, I guess. Favorite movies. I kind of already mentioned that a little bit. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's, you know, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, 2001. House of Flying Daggers. There you go. Those are the main three. Am I planning on streaming more? Well, I'm going to be here immediately for at least another hour or more. I'm going to be here later this morning at 9 a.m. And then roughly a month from now, I will repeat this whole long weekend thing. This is going to be a monthly thing now. The weekend that is closest to the middle of the month, I will do the Bill's Epic Streaming Weekend. It's going to be, you know, an ongoing thing. Susan says it can be an educational tool if you want to know what question it has. If you know what, you know, yeah, that's my understanding, because since it has, you know, essentially near instantaneous access to a whole mess of information, and it does seem to me to be a reasonably well put together language model, right? And it seems pretty sophisticated, so that it could, if you gave it appropriate parameters, I'm sure it could come back with some really good information. And then it just comes down to how well people use it and whether or not they're, it's like I have a friend who's a teacher, and I guess part of the issue is they're having issues, or talking about the issues of AI and how that's going to play into education in the future. And the way I look at it is it's just a tool. So students can misuse tools. Like you get Cliff Notes and steal from it, and it's plagiarism, right? You know what I mean? And a lot of times teachers can recognize that, and if you get caught, then you get in trouble, right? It's academic integrity, right? I have no respect for anybody that plagiarizes stuff like that. That's just ridiculous. Do your own work, or why are you there? I get impatient with stuff like that. But yeah, it seems to me that even though I was disappointed with it, I didn't try to ask it any kind of question like that. I was kind of just trying to encounter it, just as an entity that was, it's a large language model, right? So I just kind of wanted to see what it was going to do. But yeah, I suppose if you had a specific question and you could formulate the question appropriately, you could probably get some really good results, I would guess. Undertaker says, indeed, it helped me study chemistry. Fantastic. Yeah, see, I imagine if you could ask it, things about, various ring structures or whatever, and large protein molecules or whatnot, it would probably be able to come up, with some decent resources for you to look at and understand, yeah. So Susan asks, favorite painters. Okay. Okay, I really like a lot of Salvador Dali's stuff, especially in particular one that's called The Temptation of St. Anthony. You know what? I think I have a poster version of that. Hang on a second. Give me a quick sec if you guys will bear with me. Dusty as hell from being on the top shelf over there, but hear me. Wipe it off a little bit. So here's can we get the whole thing in there more or less, kind of? Yeah, there you go. So that's The Temptation of St. Anthony, or Salvador Dali's version of it. It's I can't remember who did the original one. It's like a Renaissance sort of thing. But anyway, so that's Dali's version of that. I quite like Dali, this one in particular. Another one of my favorite painters is a guy named Francis Bacon. I got to see sort of a retrospective of his stuff at the Tate when I was in England, in London in 1985, which was fantastic. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but a lot of it is on these very big canvases, and he does these triptych things that are just, yeah, he's a pretty intense guy. There's an interesting documentary about him, Francis Bacon, A Brush with Violence, and there's kind of a pun there. But yeah, he's an interesting character, but a fantastic, fantastic painter. I also like Toulouse-Lautrec a lot. I really like Toulouse-Lautrec. So I got kind of a broad sort of interest when it comes to that. And of course, I'm really fascinated by a lot of Picasso's work, just because he was tremendously successful at the stuff he did, as a painter. He knew what he was doing, and he was super impactful. There's no getting around that, whether you subjectively like his work, like as a matter of taste or not, is irrelevant. I mean, if you think of art as being part of a discourse of, whatever, then, yeah, he's certainly a heavyweight, absolutely. What do I do for work? Yeah, I have answered it, and currently right now I don't do anything for work. I am a little lame due to I have degenerative disc disease, and I let it defeat me for a while. So I'm, trying to climb out of that mess. So, yeah. Yeah, Dali is trippy. Yeah, he certainly is, isn't he? Yeah, Hopper. Okay, yeah. Wyeth, I don't know. I'm not familiar with their work, so I'm not sure how to address that. Anything about that, but I should ask my friend. I have a really, really, really good friend of mine. Teaches. He teaches at Chester University, and yeah, in the art program there. I guess photography and design and that stuff is I think the program he's working in currently. But he's also taught. I think he still teaches maybe some art history. And man, he knows his stuff when it comes to art history. I'd love having interaction with him on that regard because, yeah, I've learned a lot from him and continued to learn a lot from him. Actually, you might have seen some of his stuff. If any of you guys follow me on Facebook, I occasionally post photos of his. He does photography, but he also does this stuff that's to do with collages, which I really like his collage work a lot. But he seems to be kind of not emphasizing that at the moment. I think because I guess he's trying to figure out a way to reconcile his photography with the collage and turn it into something that's a cohesive work. But yeah, I get very, very fascinated by art. Yeah, especially when you start to think of it in terms, it's not just about it being decoration, right? But it actually being a thing that is, well, it's to a certain extent, it's like listening or listening to complex, sophisticated music or literature or philosophy, that kind of thing, right? There's meat in it. It's good for humans to do these things for each other. I mean, we've been doing it since cave paintings, right? Or before that. I mean, that's just some of the oldest stuff we have evidence of. But clearly, I mean, the stories we tell each other and the dances we do and the pictures we make, and to me, it seems pretty obvious that it's something to do with the functionality of us and the kind of primates that we are, right? Gary Winogrand. I don't know his work off the top of my head. See, I'm really bad with names, you know what I mean? There's just a few people, and it's usually like kind of, famous people whose names I remember. So yeah, if I've seen their work, I don't know it very well. And I'm really bad with photographer names, just because I just am. Yeah, it sucks. It would suck, if I ever met any of these people, because it's like they would probably take it as me being super disrespectful, and it's like, no, my brain doesn't like. It's like I sometimes have a problem just remembering people's names when I've met them. You know what I mean? It's like that's been true since I was like a teenager. It's like for whatever reason, making sure that I keep people's names straight is just something I've always kind of had an issue with. I think it's time for some more brushing. So Zodiac says that they remember my collaboration with ER. Oops. What's going on here with the... Would I collaborate again? Yeah, I'm open to collaborating, I guess. It's just a matter of me... I don't know. Sometimes I'm not the best when it comes to socializing with humans, But, yeah, I'm open to the idea, given the right sort of project. Here's the thing. I'd like it to be, like doing the duel was, that was a really good project. Excuse me. And, the way we approached it was, we each made our footage. I mean, we talked about it, right? So we came up with an idea of, what the arc should be for the, the kind of just the overall story idea, which was really pretty simple if you think about it. But then, so we made our footage each, and then we just gave each other, all of the footage. And then we gave each other the freedom to do whatever we wanted with each other's footage. The idea being that we would each make our own version of the movie, right? And I think it turned out good. I think it turned out really, really good. So I'd be open to doing a similar thing like that again sometime. It's just a matter of me, having the appropriate connection with a human who's also similarly interested, and and then getting better at scheduling my time so that I could actually succeed in such an endeavor. Yeah, so there you go. Keep slouching. I should not slouch. So it says, according to YouTube, there's 18 of you guys. So cool. Imagine if that was 18 people in a room. That's quite a lot of people in a room, isn't it? Oh, well, I think, Susan, that I think I probably have aged. I think it's just the beard has a certain consistency, so it, kind of hides the fact that other things have changed. Yeah, and that was with the red curtains. That was when I lived in San Francisco. I missed that apartment. I ended up having to give it up because, I had to give up my job because of my spine, and I wouldn't, yeah, so I moved back into the family home, and while I still had some money, I remodeled the garage / basement area and turned it into, where I am now. Mostly because my dad is a cool human and, had the generosity to allow me to do that. Although, man, I tell you, remodeling ended up costing way more money than I thought it was going to. Well, we did, I did a lot of it myself. My dad helped, and my brother-in-law helped a little bit. And, but, man, it's just, stuff just always costs more than you think. Well, guten Abend, mein Freund, from California, yeah. San Francisco's very up. Yeah, parts of it. There's parts of it that are really crappy too. But the place I lived in was really nice. It was a Victorian place. I don't know if you can tell in the video or not, but it had really high ceilings. Like I don't know exactly what the foot measurement was, but there's no way I could jump and reach that ceiling. I had to use a ladder to change the light bulbs in the chandelier thing. And it had, the crown molding and all that kind of stuff, and big bay windows in the front, and it was a fantastic place to live. Yeah, it was really, really good. And the rent for me was affordable at the time. I've mentioned this before, that the guy that was my roommate, Gary, who was probably the biggest slut on the planet. He's a gay man, but and he's a good deal older than me, and he wouldn't mind me calling him a slut. He would be proud of it. But he got more play than any other human I've ever come across in my life. He had dudes coming in and out at all times of day and night. I mean, he was a retired guy, right? So he didn't have to work or anything. But he had dudes that were like much younger than me even. He just had guys coming in and out, man. It was anyway, it's good for him, right? Everybody involved seemed to be very happy about it. It was funny though, because the way the apartment was laid out is that my room and bedroom and sort of living room area was at the front of the apartment, and then there was a long hallway that went to the back, and then his rooms were in the back, and then the bathroom and kitchen were kind of in the middle. So it was this long, narrow thing. So I ended up being his doorman sometimes. Like, these guys would be knocking on the door at like all hours of them, just be like, all right, you're here for Gary, right? It's like, oh man, yeah. But anyway, it was he'd been there since like the 80s, and it was a rent-controlled place. So it was affordable for me at the time, because I didn't. My job was a pretty modest amount of money, and so it was fine. I was able to pay my rent and eat food, etc., and have a little bit of spare money to indulge on when I still drank booze, and when I was able to get cannabis, etc. I never went too crazy on the cannabis thing, although I went way too crazy on the booze thing. But yeah, it was okay. I liked living there. Yeah, unfortunately, I just couldn't afford to stay there because whatever, right? Bad things happen. Okay, I'm gonna drink some mint tea now that I've finished my green tea. Although I might make more green tea. I'm leery of it just because I am going to want to go to sleep at some point. But do some more brushing of the microphones. So Susan says, yeah, my parents are very cool. Well, I've lost my mom, but yeah, my dad is an extremely cool human. And, well, I'm sorry to hear that you got kicked out. That's rough. And Van Steve says, good sound quality. Good. I'm glad. Sometimes I don't always succeed in achieving the results I'm after, but I think I've kind of got, whatever. I think I'm okay with, how to use the OBS and my interface and these mics and kind of get a decent result consistently now. Let's hope that that's a true thing. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad it's working for you. Armin 27. What is my 9/11 story? Well, it's, okay, so when 9/11 happened, I was living in an apartment in San Leandro. This was when I was still doing computer programming. I was going to be taking my cruise that was going to be the Panama Canal cruise. It was going to be, I guess it started like because it went from the end of September into the beginning of October. And because it was a 2-week cruise, and then I stayed some extra time in San Juan in Puerto Rico. Anyway, so I had planned the trip. Anyway, a friend of mine, he lived in Nevada, but he had things down in the Bay Area he needed to do. So he was going to stay in my place and kind of house sit for me. And it would, that way he could, he needed a place to stay, and it would be kind of useful for me to have somebody just there. And so it was, kind of a cool thing. Anyway, so he was staying with me on the couch in the living room, and I was up early that morning, and I was listening. This was back, I used to listen to a lot of NPR, and a thing came on the radio about NPR, about, that it was happening, and I went, oh my goodness. So I went out into the living room and turned on the TV and said, hey, there's a thing happening. And, was, able to catch, well, the horrific nature of whatever. And he just flipped out because, I have some pretty critical views about the United States and its government, and he had similar critical views, but he just went off the wall ape shit about it and started screaming, fuck you, America, you deserve it. And I was like, whoa, dude, what are you saying, man? It's just like, the people that are dying in those towers aren't America in some general abstract sense, man. These are people who are dying. I don't know if that's, regardless of, whatever. So, yeah, it was a weird, that was the beginning of the end of our friendship, frankly. There was a lot of other things involved too, but anyway, so there's my 9/11 story. It was, whatever. It was anyway. So Susan, she rents a bedroom, and it's expensive in Toronto. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I hope you can get things into a part of the world or a way of the world or something that is, good for you, so that the expense isn't too bad and unbearable and all of that. Yeah. Anyway, so Tobias Gunther says, what's my favorite music genre and what is my favorite band or artist? Okay, I don't have a favorite music genre because I like too many things. So what have I been listening to lately? I've been on Spotify. I bounce around a lot because they do these weird... I've only recently started using Spotify, frankly. I used to use Pandora, and actually I think it was on one of my live streams or something, or maybe it was a comment in one of my videos. Somebody suggested I try Spotify, and I don't know, I just never really gave it much thought. But anyway, so they make all the those daily mixes and stuff like that. So I don't know what would I've been listening to a lot of dub stuff lately, and a lot of it is stuff that I'm not terribly familiar with. I like the idea of getting them to what's the word I'm looking for? Having them put together a list for me. There's a word I'm looking for that's escaping my brain, but well, whatever. But so it's like I like the idea of being able to be exposed to things, so that so I've been using Spotify in that regard. But so I've been listening to a lot of dub, and some electronica type stuff, and of course some basic just like a lot of guitar-oriented sort of fusion stuff, like Al Di Meola, or that kind of thing. Return to Forever, which was Al Di Meola. Also a lot of Jeff Beck and that kind of thing. So I don't know if that gives you any idea or not, but I'm also a big fan of Brian Eno. I don't know. Okay, so Susan, people love conspiracies even when they're too soon. I try to not entertain conspiracies too much, just because, I don't know. I think people can go a little apeshit with that stuff. Curated, there you go. That's what the word I was looking for. Curated, right? Giving somebody that, because that, that way it allows me to discover things, right? You know what I mean? Thoughts on Miles Davis. Miles Davis is a motherfucker. He's one of those guys, man. He's like, I have tremendous respect and love for Miles Davis. I've got to see him a few times, which is fantastic. This would have been back in the 80s. And man, I know a lot of people didn't, because this one of the gigs I saw was when he did the cover of Human Nature, the Michael Jackson tune, and he also did Time After Time, that Cyndi Lauper thing, which I thought were fine, you know. But I mean, I guess since it was pop stuff, people got upset about it. Whatever. It's like, man, whatever. You know, he's Miles. I mean, he could play and he could compose. He understood some stuff. He was. I mean, jazz fusion wouldn't be what jazz fusion is if it hadn't been for Miles Davis. I mean, just look at all the people out of all the, you know, those bands, right? You know, Return to Forever, Weather Report. I mean, just those two alone. You can just stop there, right? You know, my goodness, Shakti. You know, I mean, his reach was vast and far and deep. I mean, cool jazz wouldn't be what cool jazz is without him. A lot of, you know, the jazz blues thing in the 50s and 60s wouldn't be what it was without him. You know, I mean, he's just tremendously, and even in bop, I mean, you know, had a huge impact on that as well. I mean, he and Monk were like, as far as, you know, the later bits of bebop, you know, post 40s, whatever. Yeah, Miles Davis is a motherfucker. Anyway, Tobias says, okay, nice videos, by the way, and greetings from Germany. Keep going. Well, you know, greetings back to you from there. The complete opposite of Bill Evans. You know, yeah, I suppose I could see what you mean by that, but there was, you know, yeah, there's a complementary aspect, I suppose, in there that functions properly. Yeah, and Coltrane is fantastic, yeah. I mean, he certainly is sort of you know, there's a baton, I think, that sort of gets handed from Miles to John Coltrane that makes sense to me anyway. Although I thought it was really interesting that, because I'm also a big fan of Ornette Coleman, and Miles did not dig Ornette stuff at all. I thought it was ridiculous and didn't make any sense and was just crummy. But I really like Ornette stuff. And I like his theory, just the way he thinks about it, and his whole harmonics thing. I mean, it's a little kind of, sometimes it seems a little woo-woo at times. But I've been able to see him a few times as well, and man, that him and his band, they're just incredible, man. Yeah, In a Silent Way is fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, and John McLaughlin is, you know, yeah, he's also a big part of what's on Bitches Brew as well. Yeah. Yeah, John McLaughlin's one of those guys, isn't he? Okay, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, or Nirvana. Pearl Jam, yeah, I thought they were kind of okay. I kind of liked them for, you know, whatever. That it didn't last long for whatever reason. I kind of lost enthusiasm. But Soundgarden and Nirvana, absolutely. I loved both of those bands, absolutely. You know, going back to the Sub Pop days, you know, yeah. I got to see both of them actually back in the day too. I saw Nirvana open for Dinosaur Jr. That was a fantastic show, man. Absolutely fantastic. I got my bell rung, and I talked about that in the last stream. Got my bell rung in while I was in the mosh pit in that. And Soundgarden, yeah, I saw Soundgarden open for Danzig, and to my mind, Soundgarden blew Danzig away. I'm not a huge Danzig fan, to be honest, but Soundgarden just, man, they had a thing that they did, and they did it better than anybody. You know what I mean? It was just insanely good. Just insanely good. Yeah, Jay Mascis is fantastic. I mean, he's another one of those guys. He has a thing that he does that nobody else does the way he does it, and he does it that way. And it's just, man. I mean, if it rings your bell, man, he's the guy. You know, absolutely. Hey, Rabbit, how's it going? You know, I need to take a small bathroom break, and I think I'm going to, probably against advisement, I'm going to make myself another cup of green tea, so I will be momentarily out of the loop, but try not to get too many comments so I don't have to, you know, catch up to whatever, but yeah, you know, do what you need to do, man. I'll catch up as best I can. I will be back momentarily. Okay, there I'm back, and there we go. Okay, let me see what I missed here. So, yeah, Dinosaur Jr. Yeah, there's Nirvana. It was at a place called Iguanas down in Tijuana when I was living in San Diego. Do I have a life philosophy like Taoism? Well, I have a life philosophy, but it is my own. I'm not an ism or ist of any kind. However, both of those things kind of influence me a little bit. I have somewhere I've got a copy of Meditations, which I guess, people use as a Stoic sort of thing. And I have a copy of Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. And I've got some other books kind of on Taoism. There's a couple of other guys I've read that I don't currently have any copy of those texts, but as far as Taoist stuff. And I'm bad with Asian names, so both memory-wise and pronouncing, I'm sure I totally screw up Lao Tzu, but yeah, so I steal from everything, man. From Schopenhauer to Hegel a little bit, and I've read some of the postmodern guys like Derrida, how do you pronounce that screwball's name? But sometimes he's, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if he knows what he's talking about. To be honest, sometimes it's fine, but sometimes it's just like what. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just steal from whatever, But I've had a lifelong fascination with Asian philosophy stuff like Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism and these things. To a certain degree, influenced by at a pretty young age getting exposed to Alan Watts. If you're at all interested in that kind of thing, he's a great introduction into that kind of stuff. Susan, yeah, go make some coffee. There you go. Yes, I am doing well. I'm actually doing, I'm actually very well. This whole doing this stream thing is, it's good for me. You know what I mean? Because it's like I like being able to hang out with you guys. So it's a groovy thing. It's a groovy thing. So yeah, I'm doing very well. And Zodiac says, speaking of Mosh Pit, not exactly the same, but I recently went to a nightclub. Not great. Yeah, well, it's unfortunate. Too bad it wasn't great. But yeah, there are some, I've been in some mosh pits where it was like, where people were genuinely trying to be injurious to each other. You know what I mean? Man, there was this band down in San Diego called the Penetrators that were kind of a, punk sort of thing. This was back in the 80s. And I went to some of their shows, and there's some of the people that were in there were just like, they were there to, being in the mosh pit was an excuse to actually try to beat up people. And it's just like, man, this is about explosion of energy, to my mind anyway. It's not about harming anybody. It's about, just being part of some explosive thing. Yeah, but Epictetus is the man. I'm not sure I am familiar with, somehow my brain is drawing a blank on that. So, Armin 27, what is the first live show I ever saw? I'm trying to think. The first live show I went to go see was A Day on the Green when I was, I think I was in like 7th or 8th grade. It's like, 77, 78, something like that, in Oakland, at the Oakland Coliseum. And it was a huge one. I mean, as far as my interest was concerned, because it was AC/DC, Aerosmith, and Ted Nugent was the main lineup. With, I think it was Saint Paradise was the opener. That was the local band. Imagine that, man. That was a great show. Fantastic. And especially then, because I was a teenage boy, and Ted Nugent, with Wang Dang, Sweet Poontang, and all that stuff, right? I mean, if you're 12 or 13, that's like right up your alley. You know what I mean? Yeah, Seneca. I'm more familiar with Seneca. I'll have to go look at Epictetus. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Man, I'm sure I should know that name. I feel like I should know that name, and for some reason I just don't. Yeah, I'd like to go to a festival. I've heard Yeah, especially like festivals all over. Like I don't know, there's Goa is a place where they do festivals in India, right? That would be interesting to check out. I don't know, does that stuff still happen, or is that dated and too old? Um, and I know that there's some interesting festivals like Glastonbury and stuff like that over in the UK that might be interesting to go to. Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind going to check that out. I know sometimes those things can be challenging because of logistics, as far as like, you know, yeah, mosh pits. Yeah, if everybody's there to be, um, yeah, as long as everybody's cool is basically what it comes down to. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you came up while there was the punk things going, oh, Susan asked if I like Bad Brains. Yes, I especially love the Quickness, that album. Man, that album is fantastic. Their other stuff is great too. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely great. But something about that album really, really, really gets me. Um, Quickness. That's a really yeah. And they're one of those bands too, right? They have a place that they occupy that they just rule. You know what I mean? They're just that kind of weird reggae rhythm underneath metal, whatever, punk rock, psychedelic, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Husker Du's all right. I never got that into them, to be honest. For whatever reason, I had so many friends that were super into Husker Du, and they just never quite, floated my boat that much. I mean, it's like I could enjoy them, but it was like, yeah, I never like bought their records or anything. But and I had friends that were into them, and they would put on the records when I was around. That was fine. I'd be okay with it. But yeah, I never got excited enough to actually acquire the records. Have some more brushing. What a strange juxtaposition, right? Talking about mosh pits, you know, with a guy making ASMR. The world is a complex place, man. Oh, I've been watching the clock. I wonder if that's. Yeah, I'm going to say it's steeped enough. Put this into my little thing here. That's enough. I have to be very careful about sweetening green tea because just enough is very good. Too much and it ruins it, you know what I mean? And especially it's good if you get just the right amount of sugar in there with the green tea with ginger that I'm having now can be very enjoyable. But yeah. What would be a perfect day for me? I don't know that I have a specific agenda, but it would have to entail a certain amount of travel. So I'd have to figure out a way of. So it would require a certain amount of access to either cannabis or some other muscle relaxant or whatever, so that it would facilitate. But I'd like to go someplace. You know what I mean? So actually, I guess a perfect day wouldn't have to be a perfect, 24-hour period or more, right? So I could actually go to a place, I don't know what it would be though. But if I had to just do like a local, just a day, get up in the morning and do a thing, Okay, I guess, let's see, what I would do is get up reasonably early, just because I get up early anyway to eat pills, and go have dim sum over at Yang Sing in San Francisco. Probably just hang out. I like going around and do people watching down at the Embarcadero over into Pier 39 and up to the Cannery kind of area. And then maybe even walk around to get over to Fort Mason and all of that. And depending on what would be available, go to one of the museums in San Francisco. Somewhere in there I'm going to have some lunch. I don't know, play that by ear, you know what I mean? Just depending on what I would be like in the moment. But there's a lot of nice places to eat in San Francisco. So I guess that's what I would do, is I would just take a bunch of pocket money and just go indulge myself in various, things in San Francisco. Yeah, I mean, that's mostly probably what I would do. But I'd like to do similar things in various other cities, you know what I mean? I'd like to go back to the UK and spend some time, in lots of places. I'd like to go back to the Netherlands and spend some time there. But yeah, I mean, I'd never been to Paris. I'd like to go there. I'd like to go to any number of cities in Germany, Berlin in particular. And I don't know, someplace in Bavaria for, during Oktoberfest. I don't know who has the best. Where is the best Oktoberfest? München? I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking that would be a good place to go, maybe. Or is that far south enough? I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to go see places like Prague and all of that. So I could imagine, having interesting, perfect days in any number of those kinds of cities. And I haven't even gotten into Asia. I mean, I'd like to, Tokyo. I'd like to go to China, actually. Yeah. Österreich, yeah. I'd love to go to Austria, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, London, yeah. I had a lot of fun when I've been there, a little bit. I've been to the UK 3 times, I guess. And then the first time was actually fantastic. It was back in 1985. Yeah, I'd like to go back to Puerto Rico, Dad. Yeah, of course. San Juan was a fantastic place to go to. And actually, I'd like to go back to Cartagena, too, in Colombia. And I'm sure that, that I'd, maybe like to go spend more time rather than just, because when I went on that cruise, like, you just spend a day at each port, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, it would be nice to go back to various places and just go back to Aruba and actually spend some time rather than just do a day at the port. You know what I mean? And same thing with Costa Rica. I think the place we stopped was called Punta Arenas. And good night, Dad. Actually, I'm surprised he was even up to check this out. But that was my dad, G.R. Postman. Or I guess it's just G. Postman. His name is Gene. Yeah, so anyway, so the perfect day would be, to have, some kind of experience like that in any number of those places. That's also, Australia or New Zealand and, any number of places down in the islands, down in the Pacific. I'd like to go see the Galapagos, yeah. So now I'm just talking about traveling, aren't I? Not really a perfect day. Just, places I'd like to go see. That's what I got to do. I have to reach a certain amount of wealth or something, so at some point I could do the Bill MaxVoxPax World Tour. You know what I mean? I know, what kind of event could you have that would be I don't know, ASMR events in person. I don't know what that would be like. Do you mean the Maldives, Susan? Tobias. Actually, never went to the Oktoberfest. How far was Denmark, through Sweden and Norway. Yeah, I'd love to go to Norway. Yeah, I would, never went there, but I'd love to go. I've seen photos of things, and it just seems, that whole area up there, all of it seems very fascinating to me from a geographical standpoint. Yeah, like the fjords and all of that seem pretty fascinating. For that matter, I haven't really been to, any states really here. Like I've been to Texas to pass through it to go to other places, you know what I mean? It's like, but I haven't really stayed there at all. I spent a little bit of a morning in Houston once because I was, making a connection to catch a cruise ship, and I've spent a lot of time in Dallas Fort Worth Airport, because I was, making a connection to go to places when I was, flying someplace on business or something. Yeah, it would be an interesting thing. I don't know, how do you, what would an ASMR tour look like, right? Do you get a nightclub and take it over and get a decent sound system and I just do live in-person ASMR or something? Or do you just do it like at a cafe and just do like a meet and greet kind of thing? Or, I have no idea what would an ASMR tour be like? Or maybe it doesn't have to be an ASMR tour, I don't know. Yeah, I've heard that Austin has a good art scene. Obviously, the music thing, right? Because what's that show on PBS that they would do? Is it Austin City Limits or something like that, when they have those live shows from there? Jeremy Barron, hey, from the 1639. So 16, that's 5 hours ahead of me. Yeah? Or, no, excuse me. I'm not going 15 hours ahead of me. So where is that? Is that is that Australia or something? I'm just guessing because my brain is not. Yeah, GeoGuessr, right? Yeah, I'm not so great with time zones. I'm okay with actual just raw geography, but time zones always throw me off for some reason. Yeah, live from an internet cafe. Yeah. Here's my fantasy though: is I figure out some way of doing some kind of traveling that would be cool to, where I could meet a lot of you guys in person. That would be a blast. You know what I mean? It's cool to hang out with you guys this matter, but that's because I just kicked the table. I hope I didn't come across the mic too badly. But it'd be a whole different experience, right? To actually see each other in person. Yeah, I think that could be kind of a cool thing. Yeah, get a karaoke bar, right? Yeah. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun, yeah. Australia is close, so I'm going to guess that maybe New Zealand or, I'm just guessing, somewhere in Indonesia maybe. Papua New Guinea. Tasmania? I don't know. Brunei, Singapore, Malaysia, I don't know, Bali maybe. I don't know, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. Oh, okay, Indonesia. Okay, I wasn't paying attention to the comments, and I'm just rattling on about nonsense. All right, cool. Hey, nice. Yeah, I have a friend that I guess he went to Bali over the summer, and that part of the world seems extremely beautiful to me. I'd like to get into any part of the Southern Pacific like that. I guess I don't know, where does the boundary for Oceania and then the Indo-Chinese Peninsula into all of that archipelago stuff? I don't know exactly how you want to characterize all that stuff geographically, but yeah, the whole area seems like it would be really cool to go to. There's the thing, the whole world seems like it'd be really cool to go to, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's just, the more I think about it, the more places are going to pop into my head that I'd like to go to. Yeah, Cairo, I'd like to go see Cairo. I mean, yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff around the Mediterranean that would be interesting to go see. I'd like to go to Tunisia as well, and Algeria and Morocco. Well, actually, there's a lot of places in Africa I'd like to go just because, well, I mean, I guess as the theories go, that's, where we all came from as humans, right? So that would be kind of a cool thing to go dig, Back to the start, I suppose, is one way of thinking about it, right? Well, I'm doing well, Jeremy. I don't know, I'll let everybody else chime in and speak for themselves, but yeah, this is, it's a positive thing. I like doing these stream things. I think, I'm glad that I've decided to, do them. Transformers movie landmarks. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, Côte d'Ivoire. Yeah, I'd love to get down there, that whole little area. And, I'm kind of fascinated to, like Sao Tome and Principe and actually, the whole thing, any of the coast seems very interesting. Probably gorgeous to look at. I'd really like to do, I guess just a blanket way of putting it would be to go visit the stands, there's, yeah. So, Peruan just came back from the club. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess from your spelling, I'm going to deduce that the drunkenness is in fact there. Well, I hope you had a good time, and you didn't hurt yourself too badly. Yeah, I guess here on the West Coast, it's coming up on bar time, isn't it? The whole, I've always been baffled by the whole, you can't let people drink from certain hours to certain hours. I mean, is it really that effective in, keeping unwanted behavior down or something? It just seems kind of ridiculous to me, but anyway, yeah, what do I know? Jeremy says, I didn't know you stream. Letting the math, can't remember exactly when it was. Well, that math one is pretty old, huh? Well, and the live stream thing, I'll keep saying it just so everybody, until everybody knows. I'm going to do the streaming extravaganza at the middle of the month. So whatever weekend is close to the middle of the month is going to be streaming weekend. So. Oh, right on. Well, love back to you from California to Amsterdam. I have not been to Amsterdam since 1998 was the last time I was there. I quite liked it. I really enjoyed being there. There was a place I went to a few times with some people I knew there. I think it was called Melkweg, right? Milky Way, to see some, musical acts. Yeah, it was a pretty big blast. Had some interesting experiences there with, various forms of intoxication. Well, as one might imagine if you're in Amsterdam, right? Jeremy just woke up from a nap. Good, Matt, Naps are good. I like naps. some more mic brushing. There you go, a little bit of mic brushing. Sounds like somebody was setting off fireworks outside. I swear sometimes when I hear fireworks outside, it sounds a lot like gunfire, and I don't have the ear to be able to distinguish. But, yeah. Okay, so here we go. Milk bag. Yeah. Guy bicycle across the canals. You know, I didn't do any bicycling at all when I was there. I mostly just walked around, and then, of course, trains. So my feet and trains is how I got around when I was in the Netherlands back then. Maybe I should have biked around because it's flat there. You know what I mean? You don't. Well, when I lived in San Francisco, right? Excuse me. I used my bicycle to commute. And San Francisco, if you're not aware, is a pretty hilly place. And I actually lived on a hill that was, I had to go up the hill to get home from work. And it was like, it was a bit of a workout. So, kind of a missed opportunity, right, to ride around on a place that would have been flat, Well, yeah, the stream will be regular. It's kind of a new thing. I've only been doing it fairly recently. But yeah, it's going to be a monthly thing. Yeah, first gear was absolutely my friend. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially because it was at the end of the trip, right? So, where I lived was, if you're familiar at all with San Francisco, I lived near, I lived on Golden Gate near Divisadero. So it's like kind of in the middle of the city. And if you want a landmark, it's near Alamo Square, which is kind of a famous park with a bunch of Victorians around it. If you've seen pictures, you'd recognize it, I imagine. But then I worked down a little bit south of the ballpark, the Giants ballpark. Anyway, yeah, so coming back through downtown and then up that hill is, but, going through downtown was a challenge in and of itself, just because, it's San Francisco downtown, right? So, it's a busy city and crummy traffic, and there you go. But, yeah. Thank you, Nexus. I intend to keep it up. Unless something weird happens, I'm going to be doing, making ASMR and, in some pace or other till I croak. So, but it's my hope to just, keep going and kind of, I kind of feel like I've got a bit of a ball rolling, and I want to keep it going and maybe even, get even better and more frequent. You know what I mean? I'd like to be able to do several videos a month kind of thing. Yeah, that seems like a good, at least once a week is, Okay, random questions are fine. Let's have it. My opinion on existentialism. How do I answer that? So I don't know that I have opinions on ists and isms other than the fact that I don't belong to them. I find, I don't know, I guess it's an appropriate response. I mean, it seems to me that it kind of comes out of a post-World War II sort of mentality, I guess. But I mean, if you want to reduce things to the existence of things, and I suppose. I mean, I guess if you want to use literary figures, I was a little more. I know I found that I preferred Camus to Sartre. So more absurdist than existentialist, I guess. When I was a younger human. So I don't know. Does that help? Probably not. I never know how to answer questions like that. Like I've said before, I don't know if it was in this stream or the last. I just steal things, ideas, or whatever that I come across. I mean, I'm not terribly interested in, keeping track of who I stole stuff from. I mean, unless if I was like doing something academically, obviously you do that because plagiarism is screwed up. But outside of that, I reserve the right to steal any idea from anybody. Yeah, Tobias, I plan on making ASMR for as long as I can manage it. I hope that, it's, my bread and butter in the ASMR world seems to be about the timbre of my voice. So hopefully nothing weird will happen to my vocal cords, right? But yeah, I want to expand and make even more. I think I want to, if I can get my head around it, I want to start making more of the NNSBB stuff. So that's kind of the trippier psychedelic kinds of things. The black turtleneck people. Yeah, here's the thing. I didn't really wear a black turtleneck, but back in the 80s, I was one of those Gen Xers that was sitting in coffee shops, wearing, more. I was more likely to be wearing a kind of a weird, I don't know, well, who knows, a thrift store suit or something like that, but smoking clove cigarettes, drinking coffee, right? You know what I mean? So I was guilty of being, a pretentious little prick, but that's what you're supposed to do in your 20s, right? I guess late teens into my 20s, yeah. You are welcome. Am I saying this properly, Peruan? I hope it, was a useful answer. Excuse me. Thinking of the black turtleneck people in San Francisco for a while during the 90s, the black turtleneck crowd had morphed from existentialists to postmodernists. You know what I mean? It was, it made sense when you're looking at it from the outside, but it did seem like, man, you guys are wearing a uniform, aren't you? And I guess you could have said the same thing about me when I was kind of I don't know that I ever really considered myself punk in a hardcore sense, but I listened to a lot of punk and a lot of post-punk and, everything from, Public Image to, The Clash to Throbbing Gristle to The Cure to, whatever, right, Yeah, that would be an interesting thing, I think some of my trippier stuff would be conducive for that kind of experience. Yeah, certainly. There's the whole, not necessarily stoned but beautiful, right? That's where the NNSB comes from, in case anybody's here is not familiar with the thing. It's a Hendrix line, and I sort of instituted it as, my own personal rating system. So if you ever see anything of mine that says NNSBB on it, it means it's kind of trippier stuff, which I did because I made a couple of things along those lines, and some people complained, and I was like, all right, I'm going to make them, but I'll just, I'll give you a rating. So if you see this and you don't like the trippy stuff, then don't watch it, right? Anyway. Okay, one more question, then I got to go to sleep. Okay, what was one truth only a few agree on you on the subject of advice for 20 years? Wait, hang on. What is one truth only a few agree on you with on the subject of advice to 20-year-olds? So I guess a controversial advice I might give somebody in their 20s. I don't know if it's controversial or I don't know how many people would agree on me, but I would say accept the fact that you're fucking up. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, that's going to be something for anybody, not just 20-year-olds, but especially when you're in your 20s. Because, I remember, at least for me, I remembered thinking that I had it all nailed down way better than I really did, you know. And I wish somebody had said, dude, you don't. And you're going to be fucking up, so just accept the fact and you just have to go, you know, do what you're doing, but realize that you're going to look back on this and cringe a lot. You know, anyway, that was, you know, I don't know if that helps anybody or not, but, you know, it would have helped me. Yeah, the San Francisco was absolutely a cool place at the advent of the, well, it's still a cool place now, but yeah, there was a lot going on when the internet came around, wasn't there? I mean, because, you know, Silicon Valley's right down, you know, just down the street, man. I mean, it's down the peninsula, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the money and a lot of decisions were getting made in San Francisco because, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, then the places, the buildings where people actually went and did the work was a lot down in the Silicon Valley area, but so a couple of 20-year-old guys, huh? Okay, well, you know, just here's another thing I'll say. By all means, go and have fun and be decadent, but just don't hurt yourself, man. You know what I mean? And practice safe sex and get consent, right? There you go. Well, I'm glad you liked the answer, Perron, and you have a great day too. Yeah, you know that I get prone to overthinking myself. You know, sometimes it's I like to remind myself of you know, stories of Zen masters with the bamboo sticks. You know, swatting the novice in the head. You know, like, what are you doing? Yeah, you know, Chuck E. Cheese life is, that's the thing. It's a paradoxical thing because there are times things seem to drag on, right? You know what I mean? It's just like, man. And then there's other times you just, you look and you go, wow, what just happened? So it's this weird, you know, what the hell, you know? And that's only going to get, it's only going to intensify as you get older, man. I think it's just the nature of being a primate, you know, the way we experience time, you know. Um, you know, part of it has to do with, I think, the way our memories work and the way we have access to them and the connections that are made. Um, and time itself is pretty subjective, isn't it? You know what I mean? Oh, there's the whole thing about, you know, how it seems to drag on when you're in certain experiences and then it just, you know, whizzes by in others. I mean, that's really what I'm talking about, isn't it? It's just that whole, you know, how does that work out? Um, you know, my thinking is that part of it at least has to do with, you know, neurological processing and as, you know, from an evolutionary standpoint of, you know, like a kind of a time dilative effect so that, you know, it gives the primate brain an opportunity to actually succeed in, you know, certain instances, you know. Yeah, I don't know. That's, you know, my theory on nonsense like that. But so Gus turned 20 a couple months ago. Yeah, you know, it will be, right? You know, that's the thing. Here's the thing. You're when you're like 20 or in your early 20s or whatever, you're like newly an adult, right? You're actually, oh wow, you get to do adult things. Like, I mean, not just like you can go out and party and drink and that kind of things, but you know, there's a certain amount of responsibility that suddenly is like, oh crap, I have to think about stuff now, and I have to be, you know, worry about, you know, what am I going to do? Where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? You know, um, I mean, I was lucky in the fact that I had a really good group of family and friends that, you know, so even when I screwed up, which I did pretty frequently, I wasn't, you know, I've never really been homeless. Even when I've screwed up on things, I was always able to at least couch surf, you know what I mean? So, you know, lucky for me, because there's people who don't have those kind of resources and their lives end up being screwed up, um, you know, but yeah. Chuck E. Cheese. Well, you know, I don't know that I have an idea about what I'm doing, but I don't know. Um, I try to be thoughtful about things, I think part of that is down to, having a lot of experience academically with mathematics and logic. I mean, it can't help but kind of seep into your thinking processes, I think. Although, having said that, there's plenty of times I'll make really, really crappy decisions when it was like all the information was there to have made a better one, But yeah, primate brains are primate brains, right, And Jeremy says, well, I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your father if he's expecting you to do things that maybe you're fearful about. But here's the deal. You are going to screw up. I mean, that's just the nature of being a human being. What you need to do is figure out how can you muster the resilience of responding to those screw-ups. And are you going to be able to have the intelligence to go, oh, okay, how do I learn from those screw-ups when they happen? And can you have the presence of mind and the grace to, not be a jerk to other people if bad things happen? I mean, it's a lot going on. I realize that, But that's the thing that we all wrestle with. That wrestling is never going to stop. I mean, I think that's where some people get screwed up when they get to, say, be my age. They think that, like, okay, I'm done with the struggling. And it's like, yeah, no, you're not. I mean, you can kind of, delude yourself into, whatever. But, life is a dynamic thing. The universe is an ever-changing place, Yeah, so, anyway, that's my thinking on it anyway. So Gus Miller says, sorting out the work, uni, home life balance is something to get used to, also nice. Yeah, I guess that's, Yeah, I think everybody's, hopefully everybody's following the thread appropriately, Gus. But, yeah, that's the thing, right? We're all kind of striving for some form of what we all perceive of as harmony, right? It may sound silly, but I think, just because it's a linguistic thing as well, harmony and music and harmony and whatever. But there's a reason that the word got used linguistically in two different situations, because there is cognitive comparison to be made, And when I see, I think having music education and emphasizing, a better sophisticated, degree of mathematical education, for people is a good idea. And I know people like resist math and go, I'm never going to use that algebra. It's like, yeah, but you are. Maybe not in using algebra in the same sense of solving for X or that kind of thing, but the thinking processes that your neurology develops when you're doing that kind of thing absolutely will, play into how you, do other cognitive things, right? It's the same thing with music, right? They've been countless times have shown that humans do better when they get at least a certain amount of, musical education, right? Anyway, music, arts, all that stuff. I think we should absolutely invest money into that as being part of our education system. It makes better humans. It's as simple as that. And what do we want? Do we just want people who are factory workers, or do we want better humans? I want better humans. We should be all helping each other be better. Anyway, there's me ranting about that. Random guy. I'm glad you love the ASMR, man. On that note, I'll do some more brushing. Pretty one-dimensional performance for tonight, I guess. But, maybe in the future live streams, I'll try to be better prepared with more options for this kind of thing than just this paintbrush and whatnot. Try and incorporate, more actual ASMR, so that to go along with my babblings and ramblings. Anyway, what else do we have here? Gus says, and it did a logic module last year and ended up loving it. So good. When you did the logic module, was it mostly to do with fallacies and things like, linguistic approach to logic, or did you get into actual the kind of the hardcore symbolic logic stuff, like modus ponens, modus tollens, and all this kind of stuff, and the various syllogisms, and I like symbolic logic a lot. I mean, that's how I ended up being a logic tutor for the community college I tutored at. I ended up actually tutoring the whole calculus sequence and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, I got the gig because they needed somebody to tutor logic, and nobody else either was qualified or was willing. So, I was like, I was the guy for several years. I was the only logic tutor in the campus. So I was in demand. Yeah, it's already been a month, man. Time flies, doesn't it? We were just talking about that, how time flies and or crawls, depending on your perspective. Okay, so Jeremy's doing IT. Dude, you can do it. I mean, I don't know you all that well, but yeah, I'm just gonna arbitrarily say, yeah, you can do it. How about that? Just by sheer force of will, I say you can do it. Okay, yeah, right on. Yeah, Gus, that's good. That's fantastic. I think that stuff is good for the brain, man. When you look at things like that, you can absolutely see, the interchange between, what logic is and what mathematics is. You know what I mean? Axiomatic systems are axiomatic systems. You can use them to, grow them into pretty much whatever you want, really, I suppose. Well, as long as you, use them as what they are, right? You're welcome, Jeremy. We're at 26. I think that's the biggest number of viewers I've had at the, all at once. Although it says that there's been 250 views. But yeah, that's, respectable number. I don't know. I don't really keep track of what a live stream should be as far as numbers go. But yeah, it seems okay to me. Yeah, there you go, Tobias. That's a good line, isn't it? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Yeah, that's a thing, right? You got to get your head into the space of, a lot of times, especially when it comes to academic stuff, man, it's in your hands, in your mindset, right? Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, you'll figure it out, man, as far as like what you do. Yeah, Gus, I had, when I was at college, I took a course in the philosophy of art, and the guy that was the professor he was a pretty cool guy. Um, anyway, he and I ended up occasionally bumping into each other on campus, and well, he smoked too, and I smoked then, and so we would have a cigarette together, and a couple of times even had lunch together, and he and I ended up talking a good deal about the overlap between math and philosophy and like that. It was he was a really pretty good guy, but he was talking about how he had wished that when he was younger that he had kind of been forced to do a little bit more math. He resisted math when he was, and he wished that he'd, wished that had a better foundation, and it, that it would have made things easier for him as things went on and whatnot. Of course, he, self-studied and, shored himself up, as it were, because, that's what you do. But yeah, so it's a good thing that you're getting that now, that you can see the connections, and it helps you out. That's fantastic, man. Jam08 says, I've been doing uni course for a couple of weeks now, electrical and electronics engineering. Well, I don't know how to advise you on whether you should stick something out or not. If you're not wanting to stick it out just because you're finding it difficult, is it that you have a cognitive issue about it being difficult, or is it just you don't like it, or do you just not want to do the work? There's a lot of questions in there. And you know, you have to answer all those things for yourself. But you know, not everything is for everybody. You know what I mean? But I would advise you that if you think you're pussing out, maybe think about not pussing out. You know what I mean? But you know, if it's something you really don't want to dig, then you know, don't force yourself to do something either, right? So it's a rough thing, isn't it? You know, I guess the thing is try to become introspective about it a little bit, and figure out what the thing is for you to be doing, man. You know, I mean, not that you have to have the final answer, but if it's the right thing for you, then even if it's not maybe the final answer, right? Computer programming wasn't the thing for me to do forever, but it was a thing for me to do for a while. So there's the thing. You don't have to do a thing forever, right? That's another thing. We have this weird thing in this culture about, that what you do becomes part of your identity. It's like, no, 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 no. The things you do are the things you do. You know what I mean? I mean, unless it's a thing like a calling, like, and to a degree, I'm a musician, right? Because I, operate a guitar to make music. But underneath that is more like I'm an artist of sorts, and by nature, like I want to make creative things, and I'm kind of driven to do that. So that's kind of a thing that has to do with me, is my personality and like that. But the truth is, being a guitarist is something I do, right? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like I'm a being that does things, and I don't know, maybe I lean into that too hard, but yeah, don't. Just because you're an electronics engineer, because you do it, as a profession or something like that, that doesn't mean that it has to be the entirety of your identity, right? You know what I mean? It's so if it stops serving the purpose that that it was supposed to serve, then maybe you should think of something else. But if it is the thing to do, then knuckle up, get disciplined, and do the thing, man. Yeah, you have to figure that out for yourself, though. But I don't know. Yeah, IT support has been a big thing for a long time. I mean, going back to the 60s when my dad became a computer programmer for, Safeway's data processing. I mean, the minute they started using computers for that type of stuff. And Safeway actually did some pretty groundbreaking stuff back in the day. One of the guys that my dad worked with, this guy, Jim Pitsley, he was one of the guys that was working on the original what became the internet as far as like computers speaking to each other, period, right? He was one of the first guys that was, doing that work. And he came to Safeway because Safeway wanted to be able to do it, to have their computers speak to each other for logistics. And IBM told him they couldn't do it. Because, oh, it can't be done. And he's like, yeah, it can. Well, let me show you. It's fantastic. So, I mean, ever since then, man, the minute you start going down that path, IT became important, It's just, because it became important for research, became important for communication, became important for business, and it will, for as long as we use digital stuff for whatever, I mean, everything from, music and entertainment and whatever to, word processors to, spreadsheets and businesses and bank accounts. I mean, all of it, man, it all needs something, right? Stuff's got to work somehow. Have I ever read left-wing philosophy? Yeah, I read the Communist Manifesto. I never read Das Kapital or whatever it is. I've read a few other things. To be honest, a lot of it kind of drops out of my head because I don't cling to things very much. I am left-wing insofar as that I believe that capitalism should be dismantled, but I'm not a Marxist. I mean, I think his criticisms of capitalism are fine. I'm not a fan of a single-party solution. But here's the thing. I believe in things being collective problem solving and democratic principles. I mean, that's, I guess the short answer for my left-wingness. But, some of it's from reading, but most of it is from, after having read a little, I kind of just, kind of develop my own thinking of it. And most of it's driven by my more kind of mathematical, axiomatic approach to things, and then just sort of having taken some, anthropology type courses, and then, just being exposed to art and, just in general, the way I view the world kind of comes together, and it's like, what makes sense to me? So, but yeah, so I'm not the best read when it comes to that sort of thing. So, a lot of left-wing people would say, oh, you're not really left-wing, because it's like, if you're going to be a gatekeeper, then screw you. I'm not interested in having a conversation with you anymore. Yeah, but that's me. I'm a kind of a prick when it comes to that kind of stuff. Yeah, I hope it was good for you, Jam 08. Yeah, you need to do what's good for you, brother. So, well, you're welcome, Samuel. And much love to you as well. Mm. What time is it getting to be? 2:18. I'm wondering how much longer I should stay up because I'm going to want to get some sleep before I have to get back up again to do the 9 o'clock stream. Well, I'll be up for a little while because I've just had this, finishing up this cup of green tea and the caffeine, and that will probably keep me up for a bit more. So I might as well last out the caffeine, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, I think that last clearing of my throat, I was not careful enough, and I think it clipped a little on the mic, so I apologize if that got in anybody's ears in a harsh way. Yeah, there you go, JS. Yeah, that would be my advice. It's fine to take things from other people. There you go. It's like we're humans, right? You get ideas and. Oh, Gus, that sounds like a real. I took a way back in the day. It was just called cultural anthropology. It was like one of those intro courses. Just to kind of give you the basic. I think back in the day we used to call them survey courses, right? The idea is that you're just kind of exposing yourself to the thing, and then maybe if it floats your boat, you pursue it further. But yeah, I like that course a lot. Just the whole. I mean, there's a lot of things that you just kind of go, man, I never really thought of looking at it that way, and and it's absolutely impacted my thinking processes. Yeah, absolutely. And the one cool thing is, man, it's like it sort of emphasizes, at least for me, that there's not, like what's the phrase? There's more than one way to skin a cat, kind of thing, right? Because there's humans. It's like we're such a vast and sophisticated, from an observational standpoint. We do lots of complicated stuff in very interesting ways, and sometimes there's amazing similarities, and other ways there's pretty stark differences, and it's it's pretty interesting. I'd like to see some of those kind of concepts make it into mainstream education at an earlier age, rather than having to wait to get to college level to be able to get exposed to some of those things. Yeah. I mean, I guess they do a little bit like with social studies and stuff like that, right? But I don't know. It seems like maybe more could be done in that realm, but I don't know. Maybe I just expect too much out of education. Got a little spasm in the neck there. Okay. Oh yeah, computer culture and mysticism is a very interesting thing, isn't it? Because man, there's a whole. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can go off on a whole host of pseudoscience-y things that have to do with, digital space and intelligence and what that means and it entails, and, and like what consciousness, right? What is that? And will digital stuff impact that as far as, what does the development of AI mean, really? You know what I mean? Right? I don't know. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. And, how does that impact our, interpretation of mysticism, right? Part of the root of the word has to do with the same root that has to do with mystery, right? You know what I mean? Encountering the unknown. It's like occult, right? It means to, it's the same sort of thing as to something to be occluded, right? You know what I mean? Pretty interesting stuff. And, any technological thing kind of gets brought into that realm, doesn't it? I mean, anything that falls into the realm of creativity and art ends up also getting, I believe necessarily, kind of intertwined with anything that does with, our religious, spiritual, whatever encountering you want to do with the universe, and how you, say, hey, what does it mean for me to be me in the universe, right? So, yeah. I mean, for that matter, that may seem fairly trivial now that we're just having a conversation where I'm saying things into a camera and you guys are watching it at your end, with a screen and speakers, and you're being able to type things so I can read these things. So it's just, a communications tool, right? And so superficially we've become accustomed to what that is. But if you think about what it entails, compared to what humans were capable of, and how does that change our perspective and how we see each other as humans, and the fact that, that you can, in real time, or, as close to now as we can, conceptually get anyway, to having instantaneous communication across the globe, right? And what does that mean for our understanding of, humankind in general, and how does that play into our, relationship to, ourselves and the universe and all of that, right? I don't see how you cannot consider that, and how it, and if you were to show what we're doing now as just sort of, like I said, just sort of taking it for granted, it's an easy thing we can just do, compared to people's perspectives, not that long ago, this would absolutely be seen as hocus pocus magic. You know what I mean? Is it Arthur C. Clarke who's often credited with the line of, any technology sufficiently sophisticated and advanced appears to be magic, or something like that. I'm sure I've totally screwed up the quote, but I think you guys kind of get the idea. If you've heard it before, you understand what I'm getting at. But yeah, so, what is all of that, or any of it, Yeah. Brush on the top, I don't know if it'll really make that much difference to the sound of it, but it's, not directly facing the diaphragm, so I thought maybe it might make a slightly different noise. Oh, okay, we have another. Young Prince Paul, nice. Consciousness is such a weird concept. Do any animals have any consciousness or self? Yeah, see, I don't know, right? Can we certainly answer this question? I mean, you could make the argument that we're not even 100% sure that any of us, other than ourselves, are conscious, right? You know what I mean? I'm sure of my own consciousness. I will sort of imbue you with the idea that you do just because of the way we interact, and it seems like it makes sense that you should be, you know. But to what degree, right? It's like, have you ever run into a human that just seemed to be so completely out of touch that they seem to be like, what do they call those? Characters in games that are inconsequential. I can't think of the little initials they use for them for, the whatever character that, they're just there to take up space and play roles, right? You know what I mean? Like, right? Because there's times that we objectify each other just, kind of by necessity, right? Like when you get on a bus in the morning, if you have no actual familial, and I don't mean necessarily in a genetic sense familial, but a familiarity to, say, the bus driver, right? Then to a certain degree, you're going to objectify them as that they are just, there you go, NPCs, thank you. You're going to objectify them in the sense that they're a thing doing a role, right? You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing, because we're going to encounter, especially nowadays with the population that we have, you're going to encounter way more people than you can actually hold in your head. And what is it? It's just each human basically has about a couple hundred people that we have relationships with that we can actually categorize and understand in a meaningful way. And everybody else falls outside of those circles. It's like a concentric set of circles, right? And so by necessity, you're going to objectify those people, right? Because they're just beings, fulfilling a role. And, to what extent do you in the moment imbue them with the notion of consciousness? Because it doesn't really serve, right? You're just doing a thing. You're busy doing a thing, right? So you get on the bus, maybe you nod to the bus driver and say good morning, and then you go about your thing, but the same thing you are to him, right? You're just a person getting on the bus because they're doing their gig, right? Now, if you see the same bus driver every day, maybe there's a recognition thing and it will develop into a thing. But outside of that, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So when we encounter each other, to what degree do we, because it is an act of imbuing, right? Because of we just kind of I assume that you're conscious as I am because of the way we interact. But there's certainly times I've met people, I'm just like, oh man, how conscious are you really? I mean, I hate to I'm kind of being a prick in that moment, but just the way that they seem to interact, I'm just like, man, are you really paying attention? Are you really engaging in the world, or what in the world's going on here? I don't know, maybe it's, maybe they're being cognitively challenged and I'm just being unsympathetic, or, I don't know. It just seems odd at times, But then, so now, do animals, because, we, of course, there's, like, I don't own any dogs, but everybody upstairs pretty much owns dogs. And so there's 9 people in the house and 7 dogs. So, people, it's like they tend to do my dogs know this and know that. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't think they do. You know what I mean? Because when I observe it, it's like, oh, no, that dog's not as smart as you think it is. But it's fine for people to go ahead and go, oh, my dog, this and that. There's an emotional bond, and, I don't really want to take that away from them. If I'm going to be a Mr. Hardcore Science-y type, so it's like, yeah, you're imbuing that dog with way more than's really there observably. But okay, but do we do that to each other? You know what I mean? I don't know how to answer that really. And it is very subjective, right? But I can't help but be subjective in my my perspective, because I'm the one in my head, right? I mean, there's the whole, head in the vat argument of, as far as the thought experiment thing, right? And you can't, it's impossible to disprove such a notion, right? But it's also super pseudoscience because you can't, it's not falsifiable, right? So we have to throw it outside of the realm of science, but there you go. So I will absolutely admit and acknowledge that that's a subjective thing, but I think it's worth considering. You know what I mean? Anyway, and I'm not trying to tell anybody that that's that I have a grasp on what reality is. I just try to understand it as best I can, and if I interact with people, try to describe what my notions are, and maybe we can gain insight from each other, right? Anyway, that's my hope. Yeah, Tobias, there's the thing about that, right? Is it necessarily the case that AI, to the degree that is proposed in something like the Terminator, is that a necessary result of having a conscious, intelligent computer? Or is it possible to, construct things, kind of with the Asimov 3 laws thing, to protect ourselves from such wrongdoings? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, My biggest fear of AI and that kind of thing in computing and it becoming super sophisticated isn't so much that I fear the computers. What I fear is that the people in power using them to further oppress people. That's the more likely and immediate thing to be afraid of, I think. Um, the people that have the control over the resources, the haves, as it were, the one percenters or whatever, if they get, control of even better tools, they can have them have the material things that they want and make more and more of us, inconsequential and erroneous, or not erroneous, but unnecessary. Then, they will think nothing of, ending our lives, I mean, I don't know if you've seen much about these various, there's a guy who's a billionaire who has this fantasy of building this weird city out in either Arizona or New Mexico, and it's just like, what are you doing, man? It's like the Line in Saudi Arabia. I mean, these are like dystopian fantasies that are just like, what are you trying to accomplish here, man? If you've I don't know, to me, if you've really sat down and thought about it, you go, that's a fantasy where the haves get to kick everybody else out and they get to live in, their version of, a permanent Disneyland, Anyway, maybe I'm being too harsh, but, there you go. Yeah, Gus, I think there's the thing about that. I've often wondered if the drive for art, etc., is not a way of like, I can do a thing that you couldn't have done, right? So it's like we're proving to each other that we're actually here in the way that we think we are. You know what I mean? You go, ooh, you must be conscious and aware and doing a thing because that's a new thing. Like you've done a novel thing that is outside of my scope, right? You know what I mean? I wonder if there's something in that. I don't know. It's kind of a pseudoscience-y thing, but it's, an intriguing thought. Um, yeah, the world is a scary place, young Prince Paul. Um, but again, I like to think, humans, we need to learn to be more cooperative in our way of, interacting with each other so that we can be there for each other, as not just, you and I and this group of people that we're interacting with here in this, this stream, or even in the ASMR community, but in the broader sense of, humans, right? Humans need humans, our survival strategy from an evolutionary biological standpoint is that we're a social species. We are our most valuable resource. I say it sounds like thought experiment, like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all, I don't know, a lot of the things I come up with are basically just nonsense that I roll around in my head, but, Yeah, it'd be an interesting thing if AI actually did become self-conscious to a degree that we believed it to be conscious, as if we believe each other to be conscious, you know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that would. I have no idea what that would really look like. I mean, I know a lot of, especially in sci-fi and cyberpunk, especially, right? There's a lot of, people exploring those ideas. Um, I'm unironically relaxing. Yeah, well, cool. Yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not so vain as to think that every word I say is absolutely, a treasure that everybody has to cherish. You know what I mean? I'll say it, and if you get something out of it groovy, and if you just want to trip out and gel, then yeah, that's good too, man. Hmm. Yeah, young Prince Paul, the whole thing about tools. That's the. Here's the thing. I don't think there's a single answer to that, right? I think each work and each artist has to be encountered on their own merits, and it has to be decided in that way. In the same way that I would say it applies to academics, right? You can use AI as a tool, but you could also use it to, to plagiarize. I mean, because if you're taking something and you're not really using your own creativity to, put something in the paper that you're, writing, and you're just taking something straight from, the output of an AI and just passing it off as your own, then that is cheating. You know what I mean? For it to be your own, I believe you have to actually encounter the information in such a way that you process it and bring something that would be uniquely the output of you as a being, at least that's my take. I think, I don't think you throw the whole thing out because a few people suck. I think you just have to learn. We just need to be more, as our technology gets more sophisticated, we have to become cognitively more sophisticated in order to appropriately use that technology, right? You know what I mean? It's like you can't expect somebody from the era of cave painting to be tossed into the realm of, post-Gutenberg printing and then instantly understand what's what, right? That there's a development that has to happen along the way, and just imagine what that was like for people back in the day. We're like, wow. There was very few people who were literate, and part of the explosion of literacy happens because of how cheap it was to now print things and make them available. So it's like all of these things, change humankind. And it's like, do we want to be cooperative and help each other? Because now it's becoming more and more apparent to me anyway, that that's what we need to do. You can't just rely on, some small group of elites doing things, because the stakes are becoming higher and higher and higher. And I think, again, more and more we need to be helping each other. Yeah, and AI can be a beautiful thing, or AI could be the tool of oppression, Yeah, you could make the argument that even stuff when people are doing the cheating, that in and of itself is also a form of art, isn't it? From an anthropological standpoint. I think, people who are in the art world, as far as like high art, wouldn't view it with the same metric. But that's because they're very particular. Like I had these conversations with my friend who teaches. His name's Stephen Clark. There's a context that art functions in, right? There's a framework that has to do with its discourse and how it sits in the broader postmodernistic discourse, or whatever the hell you want to call that, right? So that if you're going to use language in that manner to describe certain things, it does become necessary for us to focus on some utility of language, right? And so so what is all that about? But in any case, there's a specific notion of what art is inside of that context. But from a general sense of it's humans making things that have a creative impact on other humans. If you're going to look at it from that broad anthropological standpoint, then yeah, it is absolutely art. Okay, here we go. Gus is saying art interacts a lot with things like derived intentionality, original intentionality. Yeah, there's the thing, right? And I think each one of those, I think it has to be solved on a case-by-case basis. You know what I mean? To me, that seems what has to be done. And again, we just have to become cognitively sophisticated to match our technology, which means better education. Not, like what seems to be happening here in the United States. Don't take away funding for education, and don't keep people from being creative. Fund the arts. People need to have a broad notion of how to process stimuli, right? We need to be, literate when it comes to just, graphics and images and all of that kind of stuff, as well as, with, actually just, text as a thing. Similarly, again, I've mentioned before earlier that they've done a lot of research that shows that musical education is super, super advantageous for humans to be participating in. Yeah. What is Gus saying here? Yeah, that's absolutely one way of, that's a good take on it. Yeah, absolutely, Gus. Yeah. And there's an interesting thing. If AI were to actually become not just intelligent in the sense of like large language model intelligent, but actual intelligence, like something that is, akin to or similar to actual human intelligence, which I don't think we're even close to that yet, frankly. But, maybe I'm naive in that, but I don't think they're there yet. what does that look like? What are the results of that? And then does it, I don't know if you saw the show and tell about the books, but I brought up a book that's The Third Mind by William S. Burroughs. I was going to say Edgar Rice Burroughs. William S. Burroughs and Brian Geisen. And part of that book is about collaboration and what collaboration means, and how do you use random things, i.e., using cut up and things to to fold into that, and what does that mean? To a certain extent, AI to me seems like a natural extension of those types of techniques, especially when it comes down to the large language model thing, right? But now here's the thing: would AI that actually became intelligent, could it be encountered in such a way that it becomes the other collaborator, and that there is the apparent third mind, or the emergent third mind, if you want to get Hegelian about it? To what extent do we want to call that real? You know what I mean? So it's it's stuff to consider. You know what? I need to take another bathroom break. The caffeine is causing that to happen, so I'm going to mute the mic, and I will be back momentarily. And I'm back. Okay, so where are we at there? How do I feel about the fact that people are using AI to develop music utilizing previous artists' voice and style? It sounds just like aesthetically pleasing to you. Would you consume it? That's a good question. I'm not sure I'm really enthusiastic about people, 'cause when people are like using stuff like I remember seeing a thing a while back now that where a guy was using some AI to get something to come up with material that was I don't remember if it was Bach or Brahms or somebody, but some famous composer, and it was like the idea was that he came up with new material, and it was so close that that it could fool the experts, kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, I guess that's good on you in the sense that it showed that you were able to achieve some technological advanced thing, but I don't know that I'm all that interested in that. From a human standpoint, I think art should be. I don't like the idea of art being commodified. You know what I mean? I don't even like music. I know for some people it was a paycheck, right? Because a lot of musicians had to play that stuff back in the day, and there's a lot of studio musicians that got a lot of money from a regular gig just playing music, and a lot of songwriters got royalties because that stuff when you do that stuff they get their piece, right? So I guess economically it served a purpose, but I don't care for it in the sense because what it does is it turns music into like a soda pop can, and that bothers me. I think art should be humans making stuff for each other, and so if somebody's, again, that gets down to that whole idea of integrity, doesn't it? I mean, if you're doing a thing that isn't yours, then what are you doing, man? And why are you doing it? I mean, that's kind of sleazy if you ask me. And there's the thing: if it was aesthetically pleasing to me, would I consume it? Only if I was fooled, If I knew for a fact that it was just a thing that was made to sound like somebody else's stuff, no, I wouldn't bother with it. Because it's not the human communicating with me. I'm just interested in that. Maybe I'm being flippant or whatever, but I just don't see it. I don't see the appeal, at least not in my head right now. I'm more interested in humans making things for other humans. So, but if they fooled me, to the place that I couldn't tell the difference, then yeah, okay, but then good for them. They duped me, I suppose, right? You know what I mean? Is that something to be proud of? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being a curmudgeon, but I say no, it's not worth being proud of and not even worth pursuing, but, that's my take on it. Anyway, a bit off topic, but what do you think happened to the ASMR community? It doesn't seem tightly knit as it once was. It is different now, and I'll tell you what happened to it. Alphabet happened to it. Google, the way Google approached it and turned YouTube in general, it altered the landscape and the ecology of what the ASMR community, all communities essentially. Everything is very different now. I mean, I remember the first big, chopping of the tree, so to speak, was when they made everybody have those Google Plus accounts. I don't know if you remember that. That was a fiasco and just a silly, just ridiculous. But so they're, or like I was talking about in the previous stream, because they're changing policies now as to do with how the ads are going to work. I've been on I started doing, I monetized my channel because, I could because I had sufficient subscribers and all of that. But it was never my intent to monetize anything because I just, that wasn't what I was about. I mean, I had maybe thought of maybe trying to do the thing to like do a tip jar kind of a thing, but wasn't really looking for ad revenue per se. Anyway, and what kind of, I guess, lit the fire under my butt was YouTube was like, well, we're changing our policy. We're going to, the policy is now that we can monetize your stuff whether you're, monetizing it or not. Part of that was because they hadn't monetized smaller channels, right? Because the original policy wouldn't have allowed them to do that. Because you had to be in a relationship with them with an AdSense account. But they changed the policy so that they could run ads on small channels, you know what I mean? Which meant, oh, okay, that means you're going to make money off of my work. That just bothered me. But since I actually qualified to be able to monetize it, I found it, so I went ahead and did it. But it was my intent to only ever have the overlays or the ads along the side and pre-rolls. Right, I never wanted anything in the middle of the videos, nor did I want anything at the end. Because you guys are watching ASMR, if you chill out and fall asleep, and then there's this ad that comes blaring in at the end, right? Then what the hell, man? That just seems rude. But now I don't have a choice in that anymore. They're going to have pre-rolls and you're going to have post-rolls. That's it. You know what I mean? But see, it's that kind of stuff that YouTube has done that has altered the landscape to the place that it's altered what the the community's about, because it's less about a community, because ASMR is now a product. I mean, I hate to be sexist, but it's, I don't know how else to respond. But there are a lot of young, attractive women who make ASMR. A lot of them, I don't think they have the slightest idea what ASMR is. They don't seem to, get it to the degree, because it's like, man, I don't know what that is. But, I think they're successful to a degree because they're attractive, and there's a very much a consumable thing that has to do with our culture, that attractive people are consumable, and, I don't know, maybe I'm being jaded about that, but that's kind of how it appears. But, I don't know. So there's a lot of that that's happened. In some degree, that's why I want to do these, epic once a month, streaming things, is I think it's my attempt at like recultivating a sense of some kind of community. You know what I mean? At least that's my hope, and I'm going to try and get, if I can, get better and more disciplined. I want to, start being more active about just using social media to, so I can, not that I really want to be on Facebook so much, but I can use it to let you guys know what's happening. Somebody, I mentioned last stream as well, but somebody had suggested to me that I should do a Discord. So I've never used Discord at all, so I'm completely ignorant about what it does and how it works. So I'm going to kind of go poke my nose in that, see if it seems like something I should be doing. So I need to get better doing those types of things. Not only because, it's like I'm hoping that possibly, the channel can turn into a revenue stream, because since I don't have a job, I need to do something, right? And until I figure something else out, this is something to do that's at least, productive in a manner. But who knows, maybe it'll turn into something that would be fantastic, right? But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. But there it is. So it's, I think, trying to make community better is a better thing. But yeah, there is a huge change in what the ASMR community was and what it is now. It's less of a community to me now, but maybe that's just me having fallen by the wayside in my own conception of it. But all right, so let's give it. Thanks, Jeremy. Tobias says, "Okay, I can create new music in the voice and da. I think, yeah, I mean, there's a place to be, because there is such a thing as collage, right? There is such a thing as, a cut up and things like that, right? And I'm okay with that if I feel like it's actually being, if there's something genuinely being done there, right? That there is at least some kind of discourse going on, that's outside of just, oh, let me make a product for a quick buck. Because, it seems like a lot of it that's, like there's, I don't know if you've seen many videos, that there's a lot of channels now that are doing those speech to voice software. And how you can tell, because they screw up on contractions and things like that pretty badly. And it's like, oh, okay, so somebody's just written something down, and rather than actually take the time and to learn how to use a mic and do all this stuff, they just go, oh, I'm just going to use this speech to voice thing. And it's like, okay, so you're just making a product. And I see ads on YouTube now for these things where it's like, oh, oh, here's how to make money without even having a product, and here's how to make money without blah, blah, blah. I just have this YouTube channel that does this thing, and it's all, I don't really have to do a thing. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of people who just want value out of the world for not ever putting anything into the world. That's like ownership class mindset, man. That I don't like that at all. I think, as poor as I am and whatever, I'm still trying to do at least my little bit of something to put some kind of value into the world, right? That's what we should be, I don't know, humans should be helping humans. I'm always going to keep going back to that. Anyway, yeah, Tobias, yeah, the attractiveness thumbnail clickbait, yeah. Yeah, thanks, JS and Tobias both. Right. See, here's the thing. I don't mind people. Look, if there's a sensual aspect to ASMR for certain people, I don't want to deny them that. It just seems like there's too many people that really do approach it too much like a commodity and less like, well, an art form, right? I like the idea of ASM artist. You know what I mean? Because there are people like, the French Whisperer, Maria, I know she does like her sponsored stuff in her videos, but the truth is her ASMR is still fantastic. There are people who are still doing good stuff. I was sorry to see ASMR Marvelous go. because I really liked her stuff. Because she was, one of the last old school holdouts, right? I mean, she didn't even want to like upgrade her mic or anything for the longest time. It's just, it's like in a way that's sort of like, I don't know, is it bebop or is it punk rock or what? I mean, there was something very kind of just kind of pure about her approach, you know what I mean, that I really respected. And plus she just had the talent. She had a voice for it, and she had the soft touches thing. And yeah, anyway, so yeah, there's people out there. We just have to learn to amplify those that we all like that do that, you know what I mean? So that we can, again, humans helping humans, right? Yeah, again, Prince Paul, that's, that's sad. At least that's my assessment of it too, Maybe I'm being too jaded, but that's kind of how it seems to me. Yeah, I'm always baffled, Desfly, but like why, it just seems weird to me that you would make ASMR if you don't get it. You know what I mean? Like if you don't get the tingles, I mean, I could understand if you want to make relaxation videos, and that's fine. And if they do happen to make unintentional ASMR, that's fine too. But it just seems weird, like, because how would you strategize? Outside of just mimicking somebody else, how would you strategize what you think might work for tingles if you didn't get them yourself? You know what I mean? NPCs. Oh man. Oh. So do I get ASMR listening? I don't. If I find, I don't really. When I find somebody and I feel like they're kind of being disingenuous, or it's not, doesn't seem, you know, on the level in that way to me, then that takes me out of the mood. You know what I mean? And it's like I just can't. That's my whatever. I can't get past it. So it's like, yeah. I mean, even if it's good stuff, I just can't, for whatever reason. I just can't get past that. So that's me. It's sort of like not liking certain bands, even though they may be perfectly fine as far as their musicianship and their harmonic sophistication and all of that. Sometimes stuff just misses. You know what I mean? And Gary asks, how did I find out about ASMR? Do you mean it as a phenomenon on YouTube? It was a woman did a whisper video. It was before it was called ASMR even. I can't even remember who it was. It was just, I just went like, what's this? And I just started, it made me like kind of start looking for that, and then I just sort of like went down a rabbit hole, and then I found people like Maria and Whisper Crystal, and then, off and running, there I go. But as far as ASMR as a phenomenon, as my experience, I have always been able to do the ASMR tingle thing. I can't remember a time when I didn't. Yeah, the people that do the harsh sound thing, in particular, there's a couple of Asian women that were doing videos that, again, they fell into that very attractive thing, and they were doing stuff, and I was like, harsh sounds don't work for me. Not really, not most of the time. Thanks for that, Tobias. Yeah, Feminal Rift, because he was doing it way before me, and I have a lot of respect for that guy. Anyway, I hope I was able to answer your question, Gary, if that made sense. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah, whisper videos, and then that was the thing. And then when it became apparent that there were more triggers, right? I mean, it seems to me that's when the ASMR term came out. It was like, oh wait, there's more stuff going on here than just whispering, And of course, then it was like a whole, the fact that there was more people out here in the world that experienced it was just sort of like, wow, this is so cool. I mean, it really was just a fucking amazing thing, man. Because I thought I was the only person, So I was like, till what? I was in my mid 40s or something when I just, discovered the scene here on YouTube. Mid to late 40s, right? When I was 58 now, and I made the channel in 2012, so that's 11 years ago, so that would have been 47, and I guess I was listening to it for a little while before. Mid to late 40s, before I realized that anybody else had the similar experience. Yeah, crazy, huh? I used to know the girl's name who coined ASMR. She was somebody in the scene that most of us knew. Ask Maria, she'll know. Um, Actually, Paul might know too. They're going to be more plugged into that kind of thing, I think, than I would be. I might be wrong in that, but just go ask another old school person. They'll probably remember better than me. Yeah, well, Tobias, you've seen our already existing collab, right? I hope. Because I'm really proud of that one. I mean, my audio quality is nowhere near as good as his in that video, but I think the overall video was really pretty successful. The duel or whatever, yeah. That was, a really groovy thing. Yeah, well, I'm not going to be streaming for too much longer there, Binjay, because it's 3 now, and I'm going to get up and do some more streaming at 9 in the morning my time. So like 6 more hours from now, I'm going to do another session of streaming. Desfly says, do I have memory of getting ASMR as a child? Yeah, I actually described one earlier. I think it was on the previous stream. I was in kindergarten, and it was nap time. And it was, for whatever reason, there was a bunch of kids in the class, like more than normal. And so I couldn't lay down on a mat. There was a few of us that there was no mats for us. So we were sat in a chair with our head on a table. And the person next to me started doing things, with their hands. And then they started like kind of playing with my hands, like, do like that kind of thing. And then doing some things with their own hands, like, this kind of thing. And then, doing it on my hands. And they kind of were just making little noises like I just did, like this kind of do kind of thing. And then, so that was a really good ASMR experience. And I was just like, oh my, I look back on that now and I wonder if maybe they didn't get it too, you know what I mean? And maybe that's what was going on, is we were both having ASMR at the same time. I don't know, because I didn't say anything. And we actually got interrupted because the teacher said, "Yo, you guys, you're supposed to be having a nap." And it's like, oh darn, okay, well, whatever. But yeah. Yeah, Prince Paul. I remember when my girlfriend couldn't understand ASMR when I told her to listen to it, and now she listens every night. Yeah, that's true. I remember, when the ASMR community kind of got noticed by the broader public, and you would see like news things on it and stuff. And it's even to a certain degree now. Still, there's a certain amount of scoffing, you know what I mean, and like people ridiculing us. It's like, why? We're not doing anything to you, man. What do you? And then, of course, the insistence that, like, man, I've seen so many people who are like, oh, ASMR, oh, yeah, that's that sexual thing. It's just like, I'm sure there are some people for whom it has a sexual component. But no, man, and I don't understand why people have to, take that take on things. And it's like this weird, if you don't get it, you have to run it down kind of thing. It's just like, man, wait, I don't get that. Why do you have to be that way? Yeah. Anyway, okay, JS25. Yeah, I need to wrap this up. Is there any pressing last-minute things anybody needs to get out their chest before I go? Because I'm going to sign off here in just a couple of minutes so I can go get some sleep before 9 o'clock this morning. Last chances. Type fast. Thanks, Chunky Cheese. Okay, the very next stream is going to be 9 a.m. Pacific time, so 6 hours from now. And then after that, it'll be roughly a month from now, which is going to be, like I think I've said before several times, but I'll keep saying it, this is going to be a monthly thing, the weekend nearest the middle of the month. So I think from now on I'm gonna schedule them so that there will be a thing, on YouTube, Tobias. So like, it'll be, the thing should be there. And I'll also put it on my Facebook channel, and I'll probably make posts on the community page on my channel on YouTube as well. Because the more of you guys that can get involved, the better it'll be, right? At least that's my hope anyway. So anyway, I'm going to sign off now, you guys. So if any of you are awake and around, you're welcome to obviously come back at 9. Otherwise, I'll look for you in a month. All right. Anyway, aloha, siblings.